Podcast City Network.
Hot. Hey guys, this is Chris, and we are back for yet another exciting episode of Final Score, episode 23. Man, we're just getting old over here, I tell you what.
We're getting rolling, man. We're finally over the new show phase, I think. We got the new show shine kind of just starting to wear off.
Yeah, and the new show smell also is out the window at this point because yeah, it's been a little rank. Anyways,
I was out mowing the yard this morning, so yeah, I've definitely got a little bit of stench to me.
That's okay. I've been like laid up in bed, kidney stones and all that. It's been crazy.
Yeah, how are you feeling? You feeling a little better?
I'm getting there.
Yeah,
we'll see how the next couple weeks go, but it's never fun to pee out rocks. So
yeah, that's never
anybody
enjoyable.
at home who's ever had to go through it. I am so sorry. It sucks, and I feel for you.
Yeah, it's never enjoyable.
I feel your pain, literally and figuratively. So, but again, I am Chris. We are here with Craig, and this is going to be a great episode, man. We got so much to talk about. The NFL preseason is finally underway. A lot of things happening in baseball, a lot of upcoming events. We're getting into that out of summer and into that early fall phase. It's getting exciting.
Yeah, we've got the training camps, of course, the NFL we're about to get into, and right around the corner we still have NHL and NBA is going to be kicking off not too distant future.
Oh yeah,
so I mean, outside, I think the spring and the fall are two of my favorite times of the year.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the spring you got all the anticipation with the draft, and you got spring training, and then the fall it's like football is back.
Oh, I know, and I can't wait.
So I know we're ready.
Like, I'm already clad in my Irish best, and, we do what we can to keep our fandoms going around
You
here.
are in mid-season choke form already. I like it.
Who said anything about choking?
I don't know.
Last I checked, we made the playoff. Anyways, so at the end of the day, though, action-packed show, so we're going to hit it right off with some training camp updates.
Yeah, the first thing, of course, you can't go 2 minutes in any kind of sports conversation in the last week without talking about this whole Antonio Brown situation.
Oh my goodness!
And the diva is back in full force.
Oh, full force and then some. He might as well go ahead and pull out a blonde wig and some makeup because he's already there.
Well, he started with the blonde mustache.
Oh yeah,
he already started.
He's getting that Hulk Hogan thing going.
So I think it was really funny because he was trying to get out of Pittsburgh by showing them how crazy he is and make him look crazy. I think he's just legit crazy.
What's funny is that since he's left Pittsburgh, I think he's gotten more crazy on top of his crazy.
He's gotten more weird, definitely.
It's like a crazy cake, just crazy on crazy on crazy.
And then more layers the lower you get.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a crazy onion. And it actually just kind of makes you cry the more you unpeel back.
He does have a lot of layers to him.
He does have a lot of layers.
Apparently. So much so that he went and you ever been in a cryogenic chamber before?
I'm not rich enough for that, so no.
No, we're not rich people. We can't do that. Sorry.
We can't do that.
We're normal folk, apparently. But at the end of the day, Antonio Brown has that kind of money and went to one of these cryogenic chambers to feel nice and refreshed and all that, and apparently didn't wear the right footwear and now has all these foot issues that he suffered, which we thought like maybe it was like some type of actual injury. No, you're just dumb and didn't wear the correct shoes, so now you have blisters on your foot.
Apparently it's like, guess a form of burn, like a freezer
like
burn, like a frostbite. Yeah. So I thought that was very, very interesting. But of course, he had to show the world on his Instagram.
Oh, and it was disgusting. Very disgusting.
I'm trying to keep my coffee down.
I've been drinking a lot of water, and I can't even keep that down looking at that picture. So it's quite disgusting. If you haven't seen it, I mean, each his own to go see it.
Yeah, so he put that out there, but then so that's been the reason supposedly why he's been out of camp.
Oh,
but
there's more.
As of within the last couple days, Adam Schefter's been one of the, I guess, the most talked about people that have been reporting this story. Mm-hmm. Supposedly now he doesn't want to play football anymore if he can't use his old helmet.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. If people are not aware, the NFL has been trying to update a lot of safety regulations because obviously we've been having the concussion issues, CTE issues, and all that. So with that, upgrades in helmets. So recently the NFL banned a lot of these more outdated helmets, including...
Yeah, and the reason being also behind that, if it's more than 10 years old, you can no longer use it. You have to update to the newer technology.
Gosh, that means my old Rydell Revolution's no good now.
Yeah, your Rydell is not no longer good here, sir.
Oh, well. But either way, though, his helmet fell into one of those banned helmets, and because of it, it's created this whole whirlwind of drama.
So, yeah, because it's more than 10 years old, the NFL says you have to update to the newer technology. He, of course, being Antonio Brown, wants to use his same helmet. And, players are very superstitious, so I could kind of see this.
Oh, yeah.
But he has gone so far as to try to paint his old helmet from his Pittsburgh days to the silver colored of his now Raider home. And they've caught it and been like, no, you can't have that on the field.
Yeah, can't do that.
So he has not been participating in practice because he cannot have his helmet. And his reason behind it, he said the new certified helmets, they protrude out and they interfere with his vision to try to catch the football. Okay, I could kind of see that maybe.
Yeah, that's not too prima donna, but
It's not too bad. But speaking of prima donna, he has gone so far as to file agreements with an independent arbitrator. And he filed it earlier this week, and the results should come back, I think, early this next week, Monday, Tuesday, something like that, is when the arbitrator will make a decision whether this grievance is valid. Basically, Antonio Brown has said the decision that this arbitrator makes will be the decision whether he plays football anymore or not. He doesn't want to play football if he can't use his helmet.
that makes zero sense to me, because at the end of the day, I feel like even 10 years ago, I remember when I played, last game I played in was 12 years ago. I was using a Rydell Revolution. Now, those are pretty good helmets at the time. But at that time, you only had about 4 or 5 different helmets you could use.
Right.
Today, you have 10, 12, 15 different variations of helmets and face masks that are usually pretty interchangeable amongst each other to be able to use in today's football. So I kind of find it strange that he's not been able to find one, because another very notable person who also had to make a helmet change was one Tom Brady.
Right. He did make a bit of a fuss about it.
He did, but, you know, he ended up finding something that worked, and he went with it because he knew at the end of the day that safety was the concern, and safety is the big thing here. So why take risk? Be safe. Antonio Brown, on the other hand, is going full-blown prima donna mode at this point, I feel like, to the point where he might need a little bit of cheese with his wine, because this is just getting ridiculous. Like, I can understand wanting to hold on to something that you've used a lot of your career, but come on.
How happy are you, the Pittsburgh Steelers, to get out from under him?
Well, I mean, we'll see how the season goes, but
Well, I mean, there's now though, there's a lot more optimism in that,
Right.
in that that locker room.
oh yeah, from a drama standpoint, you took the cancer and removed it. You know, you had successful removal of your tumor, and now you can move on. And I feel like they honestly have a decent little wide receiver core going if they can keep things rolling. You know, Juju, I think, is a really great leader for that locker room, for the wide receiver core. So
Can be. He's definitely going to have to step it up.
Yes.
But they got other guys. Who else? James Washington's going to have to step up and play.
which he played great this preseason game, which we'll touch on more later.
Yeah, played well in the preseason so far, and they've got other guys as well that they've either brought in or have been developing through the draft, and it'll be really interesting to see how that offense pulls without AB.
Well, yeah, all of it's going to come down, though, to the winding and throwing and everything that comes along with Big Ben, because he's an aging clock at this point. So we'll see what happens. But either way, I think that this is pretty ridiculous. But what do you think is really going to happen with this grievance?
I think that Antonio Brown is going to, quote unquote, retire if this doesn't go his way. But I think, and it's really funny because he did that really candid interview on his way out of Pittsburgh with one of the, I think it was the ESPN guy, I can't remember the name. But it's funny because he said a quote and it stuck with me because I said they brought it back up earlier this week. He goes, "Well, I love the game. I love to play it, but I don't need it anymore." He's like, "I don't need it to play or to be happy or whatever." Yeah, he says that now because he's made multi-millions of dollars off of football. I mean, the guy went to Central Michigan. It's not like that school is not going to... he was there for just football. He wasn't there for his academics.
Exactly.
We'll put it that way. And Central has some great programs, but
for sure,
his first goal there was not to. He was getting into a lot of trouble in Central Michigan too. So it's not like he was going there just for school. He was going there to play football, and he was trying to get in the NFL. So now he says, "Yeah, I don't need the game anymore." Well, you have needed it. Don't say you don't need it, because that's how it got you to where you're at.
And further on your point, too, is that at the end of the day, if he walks away from football, what does he really have? All you have is your big mouth and, whatever money you've been able to save up from your actual playing career.
He's
and that's
going,
it.
if he does step away and retire, it's really funny the series of events that have happened. Talks his way out of Pittsburgh, gets a monster contract extension with a lot of guaranteed money, which is now why I think he thinks he's good. Monster contract, and now he's got reasons why he can't play. If he retires, I think it doesn't last more than a year, and he's training and he's trying to do like a Chad Johnson or T.O. where then he's going to try to come back.
Oh, absolutely.
After a year.
And teams are going to take chances. Teams will definitely take a chance because of how talented he is, but I just don't know if they're going to want to deal with the prima donna known as Antonio Brown. And that's the big thing I see at the end of the day because, you don't want those kinds of cancers. We saw what happened with the whole Terrell Owens saga when he came to Philadelphia over from the 49ers. It was all great for the first year or two, but after they lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots in Super Bowl 39, it all completely devolved from there where you have Terrell Owens and Donovan McNabb having arguments on the sideline, and you have T.O. doing his infamous driveway workout with ESPN reporters interviewing him, and it was just ridiculous. It was a circus.
Right.
And I think you'd end up with the same kind of situation here.
I agree. There's no really good way to get around this if you're Oakland because you just gave him all that guaranteed money, what he wanted, and now he's complaining about a helmet and he might not play. I want to say that he's going to end up caving and just get a new helmet and continue to play. But I'd be really worried if I'm John Gruden because you've essentially pulled strings to try to get this guy in, and you're trying to, bring back that Raider mentality that they had when he was successful there previously. Without Antonio Brown in that offense, they're not going to be good. I mean, they're going to struggle anyway, I think, because they don't have enough pieces there to compete in that division.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you lose Antonio Brown, that's your biggest offensive weapon, and I don't think you're going to win more games than you had last year. They were 4-12 last year.
This is very true. And, with Antonio Brown, I have them doing a little bit better than that, which obviously you'll see more of our predictions as we go forward in this season, this preseason. But if they lose Brown, that's it. That's the guy you want Derek Carr throwing the ball up to. Honestly, I feel like there's no way he can step away from the game at this point. Because even if he were to leave at this point before the season were to start, I have a feeling Oakland, even if he has the guaranteed money, Oakland's going to sue for it back because you join the team.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you join the team, and then you're just going to turn around and just retire. That's.
Yeah, I don't think Antonio Brown realizes the ramifications that can happen because if he does then try to retire, as you said, Oakland's going to turn right around and sue him for the full amount of money that he has already been given, and maybe they'll settle for like half of it or something. But still, Antonio Brown's going to quickly realize, oh, wait, all that money I just got, I can't keep it? Oh, man, I guess I do need football. And then he's going to try to come back. And then hopefully Oakland would give him a big one-finger salute and say, go about your business. You're not welcome here anymore.
Right. And honestly, with how John Gruden is, I think he would definitely take that one-finger salute approach. But I think through all this, though, Brown will realize before we get to that point, because I'm sure somebody's going to be in his ear being like, hey, listen, if you do this, there's some things are going to happen, and you're not going to like it.
Who's the fighter? I feel like it was a boxer or maybe a UFC fighter. It's not Floyd Mayweather, but it's somebody that they made a lot of money boxing, and then when they stopped, they lost all their money basically because they blew it because they figured that it would be around forever. And then
George Foreman.
Oh yeah, George Foreman. Yeah. And then later in life,
he made the grills.
Yeah, he made the grills, and then later in life, he tried to come back and fight and got his ass kicked.
Oh, that's an understatement.
Yeah, got his ass kicked. But I mean, like, I think that's what Antonio Brown would run that route, is that if he does retire and gets to keep some of that money or loses some of it from a lawsuit, he's going to go the George Foreman route where he's going to be like, oh man, this money went quickly. Yeah, I need to come back and play. And then he's going to be more so like the, I guess, Chad Johnson when he left and then tried to come back or wasn't. His thing is all about speed, Antonio Brown. He's not a big receiver at all. So you can't, not. Even when he starts losing a step, he's 31-ish, 31. And once he starts losing a step, his game is over. He is not going. He's not the best route runner. He's not the best team guy at all. So, I mean, if he starts losing his speed, dude, your career's over.
Yeah, because he never was like a possession type of guy. He's your speedster. He's going to go, try to get under it as best he can, try and catch it and go. But yeah, like you said, I absolutely agree. If he loses a step, his career is over. So he needs to capitalize now instead of trying to take that type of an approach.
Right.
But we'll definitely see what happens. It's going to be interesting. The arbitrator decision is supposed to be coming within the next week or so, or this week,
Right.
I believe. So we'll definitely see how it works out.
I heard early to midweek, like Monday through Wednesday, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really intrigued because Hard Knocks, the first
I'm
episode's this
loving
weekend, right?
Yep.
First episode's this weekend. So I'm really interested to watch this now. Like I was before, but now I really want to watch this.
Yeah,
this
it's
ought
gonna
to
be
be
something.
good.
It's gonna be something.
This is going to be good.
Oh, man. But moving on, though, we had a little bit of other some training camp updates, more so in the way of a trade. What do we have happen?
Duke Johnson of formerly the Cleveland Browns finally got his wish, his trade wish granted. He has been traded to the Houston Texans for a conditional 4th round pick in the 2020 draft. If Duke Johnson plays 10 games at least for Houston, then that turns into a 3rd round pick by Cleveland Browns for the Cleveland Browns for this upcoming offseason.
Man.
This is a great move. I mean, I think it's more of a great move by John Dorsey. He's just been on fire ever since he took over that role. And there was a lot of talks that they weren't going to trade Duke Johnson because no one wanted to trade more than a 5th round pick. And they finally found a suitor that is played into their favors. And this could, I think it will being a 3rd round pick because I don't see Duke Johnson playing less than 10 games for Houston because they cut Dante Foreman because of immaturity and other reasons like that. I see him playing at least 10 games. I see him playing a pretty big role in that to spell Lamar Miller.
And I think that's what it'll be, is the 1-2 punch of Duke Johnson and Lamar Miller. Because like you said, with Foreman gone now, it really is going to be down to them because they really don't have anybody else behind that's going to be of any kind of real notoriety to be able to be, I think, a real big contributor. Because when you're looking at it, behind all that, you got Buddy Howell and Colin Gillespie. And who are they? Nobody's. So it only makes sense that he's going to be playing some type of a large role with this team. So definitely a great move by Cleveland.
Yeah, and Lamar Miller has never been, no matter where he's gone, he's never been an RB1. He's never been he's never been a franchise running back. And his numbers have never really shown it either. So the fact that he's run for, I think the most, he ran for about 950 yards, 970 something last year.
973.
973. And he's never been, like I said, the go-to bell cow back. And he's in the last year of his deal. So Houston kind of wants to move on from him. Duke Johnson, all himself, has never been a RB1 in Cleveland. He's always been more of a 3rd down back. He can run. He can catch out of the backfield. But this might be the guy that they're looking at to kind of take the mantle from Lamar Miller in the next couple years. I think he has potential to do well, just because he can do more than Lamar Miller can.
Definitely.
But it's really going to be up to him to step up and take over that role because it's not going to be handed to him. It never is.
Not.
It never is. But I'll be really interested to see how he fits into this offense.
Oh, absolutely. And looking at it, Lamar Miller's only had 2 1,000-yard rushing seasons, one back in 2014 with Miami and his first year with Houston back in 2016. Right. But otherwise, he's just kind of just been a manageable back. Just wanted to get you a couple yards when you need it here and there, and that's just about it. He's not a guy that's going to be a game changer like a Melvin Gordon or a Todd Gurley or an Ezekiel Elliott.
Right.
So, but he's, like you said, he's not an RB1. But you bring in a guy like Duke Johnson who's more, honestly, of a pass catcher than he is a rusher, and it gives you a whole new dynamic. And when you have a guy like Deshaun Watson at quarterback and the kind of passing attack they're trying to implement, I feel that he's going to actually might end up being the actual RB1 at some point come later in the season. I don't think it'll happen right away because you still have to acclimate him to the offensive playbook, but,
Well, one of the things he's always done well in Cleveland is he's been that kind of check down option out of the backfield. And we know how bad Houston's offensive line is, has been. So I think he's actually going to be, like you said, a little bit more widely used because of his ability to catch out of the backfield. And if I'm drafting him in fantasy football, I think I'll take a flyer on him late in the draft if he's still available. But I'm not gonna fully expect he's gonna come in and set the world on fire.
Definitely not.
He's gonna be a spell guy for Lamar Miller, but I'm staying away from both of them in fantasy football unless it's late in the draft and I need another running back to fill up my roster.
Yeah, especially if you're like in a PPR league, it wouldn't be a bad option to kind of bring.
Duke Johnson's a great PPR running back when he gets to see the field.
Yes.
In Cleveland, I think we were talking about, do we like this move for both sides? For Cleveland, it makes sense because they're log jammed at running back.
Oh, for sure. And they have a lot of talent at running back.
Yeah, and he's always wanted to get out. So, okay, they've cleared that up. They got a draft pick for him. They're making way for Kareem Hunt when he comes back from his suspension.
Yeah, which is going to take half the season anyways. But you still have Nick Chubb in the meantime.
Chubb is going to be the number one running back there. So it's really going to be fun to watch from Houston because now they have another weapon they can use on offense, and they're going to need it in that division.
Oh, yes.
You don't know what's going on with the Colts because everything hinges on Andrew Luck and his calf now. Jacksonville is going to be improved. Mark my words, they will be improved from a 5-win team.
I even made a bet on it because somebody tried to tell me the Colts were going to be better than the Jags, and I was like, I don't know about that.
Tennessee's going to be a really interesting team because they went 9-7 last year. They had a really good offseason, but I don't think they're going to be that much more improved. So Houston really needs Duke Johnson to be the guy that he's been, but elevate that game.
Yeah, I'd absolutely think that this benefits really both teams. You get Duke Johnson moved on, he gets his wishes. Like you said, Houston, they need a guy like this. So it's going to be interesting, and
I think if he gets his regular career numbers, if he rushes for about 500 yards and catches like 70, 80 passes out of the backfield, I think they will hands down be willing to give up a third-round pick for that.
Oh, absolutely. It'll be absolutely worth it when you get that kind of a production. But we'll definitely see. But some guys, though, that we aren't able to really project yet are still holding out.
Yeah, we got a few holdout updates. Of course, right after we had aired last week, Yannick Ngakoue ended his holdout on Sunday, August 4th. He had until Tuesday, August 6th to end his holdout in order to become a free agent. Of course, he's only making $2 million on the last year of his rookie deal, and he wants to be one of the top paid defensive ends in the league. And, of course, Jacksonville is trying to negotiate with him. They had offered him a short-term deal worth over $19 million a year before the negotiations broke off last month. He wants a long-term deal with that money. Jacksonville doesn't want to pay him that much.
Yeah, they don't want to invest in that kind of a long-term.
But I mean, for them, they got a big value pick out of him. He was, I believe, a third-round pick a couple years ago. We talked about this last week, but he's still only 24 years old. 29.5 sacks in his 3 seasons. He's been the best of his draft class, which included Joey Bosa, DeForest Buckner, and Chris Jones. He's also got 10 forced fumbles. So he's way outplayed his draft position and his contract. But now the question's going to be for the Jacksonville Jaguars, is he going to be worth paying that long-term deal? Because you still got to lock up Ramsey. Still got to lock up other guys.
And he's going to want to back up the Brinks truck right to the stadium. So.
Just like he did to report to camp earlier this month.
That was classic.
That was amazing. I loved it. But I don't think Jacksonville's going to give him what he wants. He's going to end up being a free agent, in my opinion.
And I don't even think that it's going to be that Jacksonville doesn't want to do it. I don't think that Jacksonville flat out can afford it. And I think that's really what it's going to come down to, because in today's NFL, yes, getting pressure on the quarterback is a key factor for defensive players. But the big thing is you need to have guys that can cover. So I feel they're going to be a lot more apt to want to pay Jalen Ramsey than they are going to want to pay him. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Definitely gonna be interesting. But some of the other guys that we have still dealing with some issues. Jadeveon Clowney. Now he did end his holdout earlier in the week, and he is supposed to rejoin the team here in the next couple of weeks. But the biggest thing is the issues surrounding his franchise tag tender, and the fact that he has even at this point filed a grievance about it is that they were trying to tag him as an outside linebacker, which pays just over $15 million a year.
Right.
However, Jadeveon Clowney wants to be tagged as a defensive end, which is also what he was drafted as.
Correct.
Because that will carry closer to a $17 million price tag. Now, obviously, Houston doesn't want to try and pay the extra money if they don't have to. But for Jadeveon Clowney, this is a big issue. You're talking millions of dollars here. So he did go through, filed a grievance with the Players Association over the franchise tag position, and is still expecting a decision on that. So do you think this is going to affect how he plays, though, going forward?
He's in a really unique position because, yes, he was drafted as defensive end, but he
was the first pick in the draft.
Yeah, and we talked about this last week. That's why he's going to demand to be a top paid at his position, whatever it falls into. I mean, if you're looking at outside linebacker, you're looking at he's going to try to get paid more than Khalil Mack.
Yes.
Is he worth that much?
No. I'm sorry, Khalil Mack is Khalil Mack. He is I feel a generational player that you don't get all the time. But it really depends. Looking at his stats, though, it's not even that Jadeveon's stats are bad. They actually have improved from year to year. Last year took a little bit of a dip, but not too much. So it's a guy who's able to keep consistent production. But I mean, when you're playing opposite J.J. Watt, also kind of helps. That's the other thing you have to look at is they have to, from Houston's standpoint, you have to weigh: is he worth paying along with having J.J. Watt? Because J.J. Watt does have some injury concerns over the last few years, and he's not as young as he used to be. Yeah, no spring chicken here.
Yeah, he's not as young as he used to be, and it's going to be...
Yeah, J.J. Watt's 30 years old. And it's not like he's young. He's not really old, but production eventually is gonna cut in. It's not going to be where it always was.
Right, so you have to look at, okay, if he's defensive end, he's trying to get paid defensive end money, he's going to be looking at definitely more than J.J. Watt, but he's looking at trying to get the $20 million range. Aaron Donald's making $22.5 as the top paid defensive lineman. But, I mean, looking at the linebackers, Khalil Mack's making $23. So, I mean, it depends on how much he wants to get paid because the franchise tag or getting paid in your top 5 is higher as defensive end than it is linebacker, but the higher paid of those two positions, Khalil Mack makes more than Aaron Donald. So it's really for him, where do I want to fall? It's tough because he is a defensive end, but he is much more suited as an outside linebacker as a pass rusher. That is what he does best.
Yes.
This will be a tough situation for Houston. I think what's going to end up happening, and I think he's going to end up getting it ruled in the favor of, from an NFLPA, they're going to say, yes, he's a defensive end. But then Houston's going to go, we're not going to pay you that much.
Well, and it's not like Houston can't afford it. They do have plenty of cap space to be able to take it on one way or the other. So this shouldn't really, I feel, be too big of an issue. And with the value Jadeveon Clowney brings to the table, he's worth more than what this franchise tag is, in my opinion. I feel that he will have this ruled in his favor because of the one simple fact that he was drafted as a defensive end, and he predominantly lines up at the defensive end position. Now, beyond that, it really is anybody's guess. But I feel that's probably what's going to end up happening. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, Houston's trying to match him up as a linebacker because that's where they're looking at it not only from the franchise tag standpoint, but they're looking at it from long-term money. Is that linebackers generally make less than defensive linemen.
Yes.
So, of course, they're trying to save some money so that they can put other pieces around. But
of course.
I agree. I think he's going to end up getting ruled in his favor as a defensive end, and then Houston's got a real big decision on their hands.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to pay Jadeveon Clowney at 26 what he's worth or what he thinks he's worth? And then you're going to have to make a decision about J.J. Watt because J.J. Watt, like you said, is 30 years old. He's had some injury concerns. There's no trade partners for either person, I think, right now.
Nope.
That's going to be willing to pay him what Clowney wants.
And also, when you look at the top paid outside linebackers, obviously Khalil Mack is one of those hybrid type of players, so I'm going to scoot him to the side. But you look at the next one, Von Miller. Now, he's making on average of about $19 million a year. Now, I know Jadeveon's been kind of pushing towards that number, but he wants to try and get higher than that because he still feels he's on a defensive end level. But I feel like no matter what, dude, you're going to get paid. get paid.
Right.
Try to come to something.
Right. He's looking at, just like any player, you're trying to get as much as you possibly can.
Definitely.
And he's looking at it from, he's not just thinking about this year and getting franchise tagged is why the designation is there. He's looking at it for when he's a free agent in 2020 at that market. That market in 2020, you look at defensive linemen who will be free agents in 2020, you don't have a whole lot out there.
No, you don't.
You really don't. I mean, looking at the top paid defensive linemen, the first one that comes up is Michael Brockers from the Rams.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 29. That's about it. Ndamukong Suh's going to be a free agent again. But you're looking at, those are the type of names that are going to be out there. He's going to be the top of that class, so that's why he wants to designate as a defensive lineman so he can get up in that Aaron Donald range, DeMarcus Lawrence range, over $20 million a year. So he is thinking about now for a franchise tag. The 3 of the top 5 players are all making $20, $21 million or more. He wants to be up in that range. And then also for his future, when he's a free agent 2020, he's looking at setting that market versus setting the linebacker market, which only one player is over $20 million, and that's Khalil Mack.
Right. And the big thing I think is going to play to his favor, like you said, there's not going to be a lot of options, but there are going to be teams who are going to need his services. So I feel he'll be able to command the money, especially when you're going to be the best player at your position on the market. But another player, though, who's running into some issues right now, Trent Williams, still has no interest in playing for the Redskins ever again, just because of everything with the fallout with their medical team.
Right.
And the Redskins have been reluctant to trade him. What's going to happen with this situation?
He still has 2 years and $24 million left on his contract. So, I mean, obviously the Redskins, he's been touted as one of the best offensive linemen, one of the best left tackles in the league right now.
Absolutely.
And, of course, the Redskins don't want to have to trade him. But he has been adamant, and it's come out this week that he says he is fine with not ever playing with the Redskins ever again. He said there's no time frame that he plans on coming back. So, of course, he wants to go somewhere where he can trust the medical team or at least have a better situation. I think this is going to be a stalemate, and I don't see any situation that the Redskins will trade him and Trent Williams doesn't want to play for him. I think he ends up sitting out this whole year, even with the fines that are going to come of it. And I think next offseason is when you probably will see the Redskins finally make a move because there's only going to be 1 year left on his deal.
That is true. But the big thing I think that, and this is what's going to hurt Trent Williams at the end of the day, he's already in his 30s. He's currently 31 years old, just turned 31 this past July. So come next season, you go into the offseason, he's going to turn 32. He's going to be 32 going into the 2020 season. So his age is going to end up playing a factor.
Well, with offensive linemen, remember, a lot of guys can play well into their mid-30s. So even if he's one of the best left tackles now, when he gets into his mid-30s, he's still got about 3 or 4 years before maybe he loses a step and moves to right tackle. He can still play till he's 36 years old, injuries pending.
And that's the thing I worry about because he did miss time last season with thumb, knee, and rib injuries. And for an offensive lineman, knee injuries are the key because once your knees start going,
right,
you're going to be on borrowed time at that point.
Even with those injuries, he's still, like I said, been one of the best offensive linemen. And I don't think there's going to be a resolution for him anytime in the near future.
No.
Unless the Redskins do decide to trade him, which it doesn't look like they're going to.
Well, I have a feeling there are going to be teams that are going to come calling, notably teams like the Buffalo Bills, who have had some injuries already happen across their offensive line. They actually recently just made a trade for an offensive tackle from the Philadelphia Eagles. So I feel there might be teams that will come calling, and I do agree. I think Trent Williams will sit out the whole season, and Washington isn't going to try and move him until next season unless a team comes with an offer
that they can't refuse.
Exactly, because there's going to be a team that's going to be in dire need.
And you know that Trent Williams, and you were talking about how he's 31 already. A team that's going to come calling would probably be a team that just needs tackle depth or needs another starter on their offensive line that is in position to contend. Now, honestly, I know they just drafted a left tackle. Houston, we've been using them as you should trade for Melvin Gordon. You should trade for this. They made a move for Duke Johnson, so Melvin Gordon's probably out the window.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not going to happen.
That's not happening.
But if I'm Houston, you got the cap room. you should call Washington. You should call and bring in Trent Williams because Titus Howard, yes, he's a raw product from, I think it was Alabama State is where he was playing college ball. He's not going to be ready. He looked good in training camp so far. He's dominated in the, where the two teams do the open practices together.
Joint practices?
The joint practice. He's been dominating in those offensive drills against other players. So, but I don't think he's ready to play 16 games at an NFL level this season. Maybe next year, yeah.
Maybe.
If you're Houston, I'd get on the horn and call Redskins and go, hey, what are you looking for to get rid of him?
That and Trent Williams, his base salary is only going to be just short of $7 million, so they can definitely afford him. So maybe they might try to make that move. Who knows? We'll see.
They should. I think they still have the cap space available to go get.
Oh, absolutely. I
player.
think they're still pushing like $20 million or so in cap space.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what. I'm sure they've probably been on the phone because, you know, that even though they don't have a, you know, for sure GM over there, I'm sure.
Whatever it may be.
I'm sure the brain trust that's there, that's the collective GM, I'm sure they've been on the phones with people trying to find out other avenues to improve their offensive line.
Oh, most definitely. And it's going to be interesting. Actually, I just got an updated figure. Houston is pushing $37 million in cap space currently. So that is huge.
Yeah, if they're really looking to upgrade their offensive line, there's no reason why they shouldn't be top of the list as far as who Trent Williams should potentially go to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we'll definitely see how this one goes, and I'm sure there's going to be more as the preseason wears on. There's going to have to be something that happens here. But one that we're not expecting anything to happen with is Ezekiel Elliott, because Ezekiel Elliott came out and flat out stated that he will not play, period, unless he has a new contract set up. What do you think about this?
Smart. This is a great move by him because he does have 2 years left on his rookie deal, and he has outplayed that contract. Even being a top 5 pick, he has outplayed that contract.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. No question about it. He should be the top paid running back in the league. If you can pay Todd Gurley that kind of money, you can pay Ezekiel Elliott that kind of money too. The problem is this is where it hurts to have somebody like Jerry Jones owning your team. Jerry Jones, for better or for worse, he's got an ego just like most of these other players do.
Oh, yes, he does.
And yes, most of the time it helps because it helps with branding, marketing. He pushed to get Jerry World created and has made them one of the most valuable franchises in the NFL, almost in the world, really. But this is the downside of having Jerry Jones as your owner. He's come out and said, "I'm not worried. This is going to be just fine. We're going to be fine. We're the Dallas Cowboys." You know, this is a player-driven league. This is not like it used to be in the 70s, 80s, even in the 90s, where players played for what's on the front versus what's on the back.
Absolutely. I have to agree.
And I think Zeke Elliott is doing absolutely what he should be doing. Don't play another snap until they pay you what you are worth.
And when you think about it, and even though Jerry Jones did come out and say that you don't need a rushing champion to win a Super Bowl, it sure as hell helps. Because at the end of the day, he was the league leader in rushing 2 out of the 3 seasons he's been in the league.
And if that's the case, what are the other things that championship caliber teams also have? If they don't have a rushing champ, they have a strong defense. Dallas has got a decent defense. It's good, not great. It's good, not great. But what do they also have? They've got a franchise quarterback. Dak Prescott is not a franchise quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to lead you to a Super Bowl.
No, definitely not. And Dallas,
he could, but it's going to depend on, you got to have a running game to be there with you. And I'm sorry, if you get rid of Zeke Elliott or don't have him step on the field for your team, Dallas is going to not only they have 10 wins last year?
10-6.
They'll be a 7-8 win team without him.
Whew, I have to agree. But you look at it, and
if that.
For the total yards leaders for last season, Dallas ranked 22nd overall.
Right.
And the rushing attack, on the other hand, was a little bit, just at least a little bit better because they ranked 10th in rushing last year. So that just shows you do not have a solidified passing game. I'm sorry, but Dak Prescott is not a franchise quarterback. He never will be. And the only reason he looked good is because you had a great rushing attack behind a decent offensive line that was able to take the pressure off your passing game.
Which in Dak Prescott's rookie year was a great offensive line.
Yes.
It still is very good, but
it's not quite as
it's
good.
not quite what it was a couple years ago. And of course, you got guys that are, of course, getting older and all that.
But to refute something you just said a little bit ago about their defense, Dallas ranked 7th last season in total defense yards allowed. Now, I feel a lot of that was really a testament more so to the great linebacking core they have.
Right.
With one Jalen Smith and then I cannot remember his name.
You got Van Der Esch.
Van Der Esch, there it is. Between those two, that's been a great combo at linebacker, and they had a decent secondary, and they were able to get pressure up the middle, but a lot of it fell on that linebacker core because not only can they rush the quarterback and be able to put pressure on the quarterback and stuff the run, but they were able to drop back in coverage. Jalen Smith was one of the best, especially at Notre Dame, and being a linebacker that could drop into coverage at any time and really sneak up on a quarterback and be able to deflect passes, intercept passes, and really disrupt the passing game. So... And it hurts me to say all these things because these are positive things about Dallas. Usually I try to crap on Dallas, but, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, having Ezekiel Elliott, I think, is imperative to Dallas's success to be able to try and push to having a 10-win-plus season and trying to get back into the playoffs.
And they didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason that would kind of get you excited that they could be a top 10 defense. I think they fall a little bit because you also don't have Randy Gregory got suspended again in February. You did bring in Tavon Austin and Randall Cobb.
Which I think those are good moves.
Those are good moves, but those are offensive moves. You didn't bring in a whole lot on defense.
Right.
And I think their defense is still going to be a top 15. I think they're going to be about a 12 or 13 top defense this year, maybe. But we've seen it happen to the Jaguars last year. If you don't have an offense that can stay on the field, your defense is going to suffer, which is why Jacksonville looked so bad last year. Their defense was great, but the offense was so bad that the defense was on the field all the time. And I think that's what's going to hurt Dallas this year if Zeke Elliott's not on the field.
Absolutely. And even if you look at how Jacksonville was able to progress the one year they went 10-6, made all the way to the AFC Championship game, they only went 10-6, and they struggled to get to that 10-6. So if you don't have an offense that can be there, you're going to hurt yourself. Now, like we said, Jacksonville had a great defense, so that definitely helped. But Dallas does not have those kinds of luxuries, so we'll definitely see how it's going to look going forward. But there's still one, though, that we're waiting to hear any kind of an update on at this point, and that's Melvin Gordon. We've heard literally nothing since he said he wanted to try and get a trade out of L.A., and the team turned around and said that they were not going to grant that request. Now, one thing I have to ask with this, because we haven't had anything with this lately.
Right.
Do we see a possible Cleveland situation happen where Melvin Gordon has asked for a trade, the team pretty much has denied it, but now Cleveland we saw who'd also denied Duke Johnson's trade for a number of weeks, ended up trading him anyways. Do we see maybe a similar situation happen here?
I don't think so because Melvin Gordon, he said he will still play for the Chargers. He wants to be there, but he wants to be compensated what he thinks he's worth. He thinks he's worth to be the top paid running back in the league. Everything else is evidence against that. He's a top 5 running back, I think, definitely. And that's what his offer was from LA. But is he a Todd Gurley money or a potentially Zeke Elliott money? No, I don't think so.
No.
LA has already come out and said, though, we're not trading him. We are not going to get rid of him at all. We know how valuable he is. So I think this is going to be a stalemate. And Melvin Gordon, I think, will eventually give in because he's not only giving up $5 million this year, he's also going to hurt his value like Le'Veon Bell did. He ended up getting, if he leaves or sits out this whole year, his best offer in free agency next year is still only going to be about what he was offered by the Chargers. 10, maybe $12 million a year. He's still going to get the same type of deal that he would have gotten with LA. So it's really for him, he's got to weigh it. Do I think I can stay healthy, save myself for a year, get the same deal, maybe a little bit better? Or do I think that the Chargers are going to pay me, which I don't think they will?
And I don't think they will for another fact is that he's been having issues with injuries. There's only one season that he's played where he played all 16 games, and that was in 2017, which was also his only 1,000-yard season. And a lot of people don't realize that. Now, he's very dynamic because he's also a decent pass catcher and it averages at least 400 yards these past 3 seasons. But at the end of the day, he only had 885 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. He had 490 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, that's good production, but for a guy that wants to be a top-flight running back, he needs to produce more. Now, if he were to sit out a year, obviously that would be very good towards the health side of things and being able to be fresh going into possibly a new team. But I don't see a team feeling that they're going to want to give up what the Chargers probably would want in return to be able to get him. So at the end of the day, I feel like this is going to be just a stalemate until he ends up rejoining the team and playing for the Chargers again.
Yeah, I don't think his holdout is going to last a lot longer once he starts getting fined. And I think they will come to some time of an agreement. But if they don't, I think if they don't come to an agreement by week 1, week 2, he might sit out the whole year. He might. And I think that's really going to hurt the Chargers and their offense, even though Eckler did very well in the absence of Melvin Gordon last year.
Absolutely.
But the Chargers offense, I mean, their passing attack, they were 10th in yards, 15th in or 10th in passing yards, 15th in rushing yards. I think that offense is going to take a bit of a step back, and they don't win that division. I don't think they win that division without Melvin Gordon.
I absolutely have to agree because he adds another dynamic. Just like how we say with Houston and Duke Johnson coming in, Melvin Gordon is that for the Chargers. He is that guy that can not only rush the ball, but he's also one that'd be a decent pass catcher, especially in check down scenarios, because he can get it, make a couple moves. Next thing you know, he's gone. So he's definitely going to be a guy they're going to need. So I feel they eventually will reach some type of an agreement. But I tell you what, it's been pretty crazy this offseason, all these kinds of things that have been happening.
Yeah, it's always new storylines every year that we've always love to talk about. But yeah, it seems like this year there's been a lot of disputes between players and teams, and it's been a growing trend over the last year in multiple sports. But definitely in the NFL, where it's extremely important because of how short your shelf life is as an NFL player. I think this has been more of just more widely talked about this year.
Yeah, definitely. And just because I feel like there's been a little bit more drama as things have gone on. So it's definitely been something that I feel has drawn more attention in, especially now that players are trying to be more about them than they are about the team. Like you said, first, it's not so much about what's on the front, it's what's on the back. So I think that's definitely taking more of a role this year. So we'll definitely see how things go. But we've already had some action happening, though, this season.
Yeah, we have. We've seen a lot of great things already in the preseason. We talked about the Hall of Fame game last week, and we had our first challenge of the pass interference rule. But even this week, it's just great to have football back, honestly.
It really is. It's like an addiction.
Yeah, preseason, I mean, you can look at it how you want. Yeah, it doesn't really mean anything, but of course to the fans of the teams that are watching the games, you're just looking at how does this team look with the new players on the field, and you're looking at those guys that are trying to make the roster, and you're looking for the next guy that's going to be the big story of the year.
Absolutely, you are. But one thing that we have to touch on first, and that's been some injuries we've already had suffer. And we're only going to touch on a few. One of the big ones, at least for me, would be Eagles quarterback Nate Sudfeld. Ended up breaking his left wrist in the preseason game against the Tennessee Titans, which ended up losing 27-10. But he's going to be out for about 6-7 weeks. But the most interesting part about this is
I know you're shaking in your boots about that.
Oh, I'm totally shaking because they're going to go with Cody Kessler for now as the backup.
I'd be real scared if I were you then.
Oh, I am.
He was in Jacksonville last year.
That's why I'm hoping we get Nate Sudfeld back as soon as possible, because Nate Sudfeld really isn't that bad. He's just been a backup, his entire career so far.
So when Carson Wentz either does not play up to his MVP
don't say it.
role or gets hurt again, you ain't gonna have Saint Nick in the back just waiting to save you again, because he's in Jacksonville and hopefully going to turn around that offense.
Well, I feel Nate Sudfeld will be a nice alternative to Wentz if he were to go down.
You think
manageable?
You think Nate Sudfeld could help your team go
He's not going to Nick Foles it.
the impressive record that you have projected for them. We're going to not give that away. But you think Nate Sudfeld is going to help you get to that impressive record that you have your Eagles going this year?
No. I have to be honest with myself.
There it is.
But, I think we at least make playoffs. I think it depends on when Wentz would go down. But
That is true.
That's a big if, because I don't see Wentz going down. Now, Sudfeld, though, is not going to be like old St. Nick and be able to take us all the way to a Super Bowl win. But, he's at least manageable and shown flashes that he could be a good quarterback.
No trust in Peterson, huh? Okay. All right. Anyway, there's other injuries. Of course, these injuries are not necessarily. Thankfully, they're no big prime injuries for like big starters or stars or anything.
Well, unless you look at the Texans and wide receiver Kiki Kuti, who also injured his ankle with no timetable for a return. And for me, he was projected to be a big role player for the Texans, but we'll see.
I mean, you still have DeAndre Hopkins, and outside of that, they've been trying to look for a number 2 option at receiver. They had Will Fuller V, who's been inconsistent over the last couple of years.
Stay healthy.
He's got to stay healthy, but yeah, they've been looking for a number 2 option in Houston for a number of years to go with DeAndre, and
nobody's caught on.
Nobody's been able to take that mantle.
But you know what? Someone that's having some issues with a number 2 at quarterback is your Detroit Lions, because Tom Savage, I'm sorry, he suffered an injury, an undisclosed injury, so we don't know the timetable or severity. But
oh man, whatever were we going to do in Detroit? I have no idea. Oh wait, we've got Matthew Stafford. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I have choice words about him that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, that's the one thing that we are going to have a discussion about, sir. I don't care.
We will.
The rest of your predictions we're going to cover in a minute. That's fine. They'll probably make sense, but that one, no, no, sir.
Oh yes, that's what they say until it happens. But either way, there has been a really good feel-good story so far about a certain Cleveland player. What more can you tell us about that?
So Damon Sheehy Giuseppe. Oh, I almost screwed that up.
Wow, you're turning into me now.
Damon Sheehy Giuseppe. He returned a punt return for 86 yards for a touchdown in his first ever NFL game. Now, of course, if you've never heard of this guy, you're going, who is this guy?
And you probably haven't.
And you probably haven't, because he has been the big story of the preseason thus far. It's just been quite the story. So this guy, Giuseppe, used to play wide receiver at Phoenix College, which was a JUCO program. Tried to get Division I offers to no success. So he went in search of other playing opportunities, couldn't find any. And in early spring of 2019 of this year, he found the address of the Browns workout that they were having in Miami. And one of his friends he played flag football with, I guess, told him about it. So he was dead set on trying to get in there to get hopefully a contract offer, get something. But there's a problem. He wasn't invited. So he spent his last $200 on training services, didn't have a place to stay. He spent 2 nights sleeping outside of a gym before the workouts.
Oh my goodness.
So when the day came for this workout with the Browns, he did his homework and he studied up on Vice President of Player Personnel Alonzo Highsmith and essentially lied to the staff there, saying that he knew him and then he was invited by him. So he pretended to know him. But of course, when he got in there, saw Highsmith, walked up, introduced himself, talked his way to get a spot along with the invited players, and he absolutely destroyed his workout. Ran a 4.3840 in this workout, enough to earn a spot on the practice invite for the next week. Again, did enough to get a contract, a preseason contract, and of course, in his NFL debut, runs a punt return back for a touchdown. It's been a really, really good feel-good story for everyone around the league, and part of the reason why we love this game so much is the stories of just what guys do. Some guys, this is their life. This is all they know, and this gets you out of certain situations and whatever your upbringing was or whatever the case is. And the football can be a kind of an escape. And
absolutely.
You can see exactly why players love this game so much. And this has been a great story so far.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely has. And I love hearing stories like this because it's very uplifting when you see guys that are really willing to do anything legal, of course, to be able to get yourself in a position to be able to not only reach success, but to realize your dream. And I think that's something that's really amazing, especially for this young man and all the trials and tribulations he's been through, because this is a guy that went to a small college, Phoenix College, and wasn't offered any scholarships following that season when he tried to leave and seek larger opportunities at bigger schools. So when he didn't find that, what did he do? Did he give up? No. He trained and he trained and he trained for 2 years to try and get himself in shape, in a position to try out for a team. And like you said, questionable methods to get inside the facility, but he did what he felt he had to be able to really seize an opportunity.
I give him credit because not only did he clearly can talk his way into something, but the fact that he went and didn't just try to walk in, he went and did his homework and basically studied up on someone who's very important in their front office. And then what did he do to double down on it? As soon as he saw him, walked right up to him, introduced himself. And to everyone else that was watching, looks like he already knew him, because as he said he did.
Solidifies it.
So it kind of solidifies his made up story at the time.
Right.
But yeah, it's been such a great story. I hope he does make the team and does end up becoming kind of a role player on this team, because they're pretty stacked at receiver in Cleveland at this point, but I could see them keeping him on just as a fifth receiver so he can do those punt returns.
And maybe a starting return man so you don't have to use up your receivers in that position.
There you go. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I wish Cleveland had Hard Knocks this year.
I really do.
I really do. I wish Cleveland had
it.
I know they had it last year and they don't do back-to-back years, but come on, NFL, you could have made an exception.
Yeah, because honestly, this would have been a great story.
This would have been amazing, because
including everything else
that happens in Cleveland in the offseason. I really wish they would have had Hard Knocks.
Oh, me too. But we got to get the prima donna Antonio Brown in Oakland, and
that's still going to be fun to watch. I'm still
Jay
going to watch
Gruden making a lot of his, hard glancings.
You want to talk John Gruden?
Jay Gruden, John, well, whatever. The Grudens.
Jay Gruden's
Washington, yeah.
Yeah, Jay Gruden's on the Redskins.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Who's on the mega hot seat right now.
Yeah, you know what? He was a better coach when he was coaching in the AFL for the Orlando Predators. So, just saying. Anyways, but looking at some notable players, though, this preseason, looking at some of the highlights, is our rookie quarterbacks.
Of course we got to talk about the rookie QBs. That's the future of the league.
Yeah, and now in some of their first action, we saw a lot of these guys be able to step in. Some got a little bit more playing time than others. Some shined. Some kind of had some issues. But it just depends on who you're looking at. But the first one that we got to talk about is Kyler Murray, our number one draft pick.
Yes.
Got to. Now, in my opinion, he looked pretty solid. He went 6 for 7 for 44 yards, didn't have any rushes. But the big thing I look at is that he made a lot of key passes that really were great passes. They were backed up in their own red zone. It was 3rd and 7, and he makes a great pass for the first down with just 1 yard pass right along the sideline, put it only where the receiver could get it. It was great. And he had a lot of situations where he ended up having to roll out, whether planned or not planned, was able to get the ball downfield, and he looked sharp. So we'll definitely see how things go. I want to see him in a little bit more action, though. And, obviously we really won't get to see the full spectrum of what he can do until we hit the regular season. But I think this was a really great first step.
Yeah, he looked pretty good. I mean, looking at some of his highlights, he got the ball out quickly, stood in the pocket, and really didn't look jittery back there. He looked fluid in his drop back and putting the ball out there where it needed to go. He looked pretty good. I was really impressed.
You know what, though? He did look really small out there. I don't know if you noticed that, but compared to everybody else, he just looked like a little guy out there just like running around. It was just so funny looking.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's not your prototypical 6'5", Daniel Jones type quarterback, or, who's the other big one that was, who's the other big quarterbacks that they...
Dwayne Haskins like 6'6", wasn't he?
Yeah, or you like the prototypical quarterback of the 6'4", 6'5", like the huge quarterbacks that the NFL has always loved.
Oh, they always love him.
But he looked really good. I mean, even we always knew that had he not been 5'9", probably reportedly 5'11", there's no way he's 5'11".
I mean, I claim 5'10", and I'm 5'9 3/4", but
I think he's closer to 5'9" than 5'11", but but even that, the talent is there. He's got the.
Oh, yes.
He looks, when he's slinging that ball out, it looks so just effortless to him. And we know the talent's there.
Oh,
it's just the fact that, is that offensive line going to be able to hold up? Is he going to be able to see through the passing lanes? But Russell Wilson doesn't have a problem with it. Drew Brees doesn't have a problem with it. We'll see what happens. I was really impressed, though. I think he looked pretty good in his first game.
Absolutely. And I want to see how he progresses because he only ended up playing one series, I believe. So, obviously they're going to protect their guy a little bit. But I want to see him when he's in more meaningful action. So definitely one I'm going to keep a pulse on. But one I thought was kind of interesting was Drew Lock out of Denver. Now, Drew Lock did fall down the boards and ended up falling into Denver's lap anyways. But he ended up going 17 for 28, 180 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. So not horrible, but, not like super great. But the thing I saw and that I noticed with this is that in the passes he missed, he looked completely out of sorts. Like he just did not know what was going on. And I wonder if that might be an issue. And this was something that was brought up through the draft process and even afterwards, was that Drew Lock was not a polished NFL-ready quarterback. That he was a guy who was able just to sling the ball and that was about it. And I think little flashes of that did show in their preseason game.
Yeah, just looking at some of his highlights, he looked good setting his feet. Some of the ball spots he was throwing to were not quite on the money, which either forced an incompletion or something to that effect. But
right.
So we kind of knew that accuracy was going to be his issue, not his arm strength. He's got a cannon.
Yeah, he's got that cannon.
He's got a cannon, and I think that's part of the reason why John Elway loves him so much. He's kind of a big, tall quarterback. He's got a big arm, and he's a guy that can help force the ball down the field, a la Joe Flacco, who also is on that team now, had a big arm, and accuracy wasn't necessarily his forte. But I think this is to be expected of Drew Lock because of the things that were shown throughout the draft process, that he's going to have some issues with accuracy, but he's going to get the ball down the field.
He will. I feel he kind of reminds me of almost like a Brett Favre, just kind of gunslinging it where he can. Now, will that end up actually translating into better quarterback play? Who knows? But it's something definitely to keep an eye out on going forward. But another player I definitely had a little bit higher hopes for and didn't perform quite as well as I thought he would was Dwayne Haskins. Now, Dwayne Haskins in their preseason game ended up going 8 for 14, 117 yards, but he had 2 interceptions, the first of which was on the first drive, which was a good drive to start out with, but he ended up throwing a pick 6. So I'm still kind of wondering to see if Dwayne Haskins is going to be able to curtail his game to be able to keep up with these NFL defenses, but I don't know. Again, this is still preseason, so this is the learning curve. This is real action that he's seeing for the first time in the NFL. So I don't know. We'll see. What's your take on him?
Well, of course, knowing where he played, never been too much of a fan of those kinds of players. But just looking at his highlights, you could see that the throws that he missed, and even on that pick 6, overthrows.
Yes.
And I think he's been a product. Yes, he's one of the better quarterbacks that has played for the Buckeyes for over the last decade or so, but that's not saying much.
No, it's not
saying much. Yes, he had those gaudy numbers, but I think that's more of the system and how they played, and they were just better than almost everybody else that was on the field with them.
Yes.
Dwayne Haskins, I'm not surprised he's not playing well because of the system there catered to his strengths. And yes, he did have to make some decisions, but you could see the decisions he was making in this preseason game. It's only one game, I know.
Right.
But he's had trouble with overthrows. He's good. He's good on the rollouts and the scrambles. Like, he's not going to run to get you a first down like a Kyler Murray will, but he's going to be mobile enough to get guys open. He's just got to stop overthrowing guys.
Right.
And I think part of the reason why he's not going to have a successful rookie year partially is because of where he plays. The Redskins, for better or for worse, they don't generally make great moves, and they're not a strong organization. Had he gone somewhere else where they are known to put good players on the field and that cater to their system, maybe he'd have a better first season into a career. But I think because the fact that where he plays, he's going to get thrown into the fire way too early, and he's going to look bad.
Well, I don't know. He has to make it past Case Keenum and the projected unofficial starter, Colt McCoy.
Colt McCoy starting week 1. You better watch out.
Better watch out.
I do think
Texas days all over again.
I do think he does play at least the second half of the season, but
Agreed.
I don't think he has a good rookie year at all. I really don't, because I just think that he's going to get exposed because of the fact that he's again a strong arm quarterback, not really accurate. Look at the deep throws he had at Ohio State. They were wide open, no one within 20 yards of the next receiver because it was a scheme issue. They were worried about the run. NFL, you got the best players in the world playing that sport. You're going to get exposed if you're not careful.
Easily.
And I think he's going to get exposed. So I'm not surprised at all that he played okay, but the throws that he had, the 2 interceptions, were not good throws.
And honestly, I think he's a guy who could end up developing to be a decent quarterback. I just feel like you said with him landing in Washington that he's not really in a good situation to be able to develop into that quarterback. And I'm going to say it now, Dwayne Haskins could be the next Josh Rosen and could end up, if he has that bad of a season, especially if Washington ends up getting back Alex Smith, he could be a guy that could be on the move.
I don't know if they'll trade him right away because you know that Alex Smith, even if he does ever come back, he's your guy now. You need a QB of the future. But I could just see him being another stereotypical Ohio State quarterback that
is a backup his whole career.
Yeah. Of course, I don't wish that on most people.
I was about to say, I feel like there's going to be an asterisk and added to this.
Asterisk. I just think that he could potentially be very good, but the problem with him is I think the scheme that they were in Ohio State showed off a lot more of his arm strength talents because guys were 20 yards wide open. It's hard to miss a guy that wide open. NFL, your windows are going to be super small. We've seen it with big arm quarterbacks that can't adjust to that. They struggle and they don't look good.
And the biggest thing, too, is that in the NFL, with how the speed of defense is played, is that you have to find those windows and identify them and get it in there as quickly as possible. This isn't college where you're playing against Navy or someone where you can take your time making those kinds of reads. In the NFL, you have to make those reads quick and you have to get that ball out even quicker. So we'll definitely see how it goes. But the last quarterback we're going to talk about is one Daniel Jones for the New York Giants. Went 5 for 5, perfect, for 76 yards and a touchdown. Only played one series. And I'm not going to lie, he didn't look too bad.
I've been on his hype train since the draft. Then we were talking about, was it questionable to draft him as early as they did? Yeah. But were they going to go with him in the first round because that's the guy that they liked? Absolutely they were going to. So we're talking about who impressed us the most. Daniel Jones, for me, impressed the most because this guy got booed on draft night, got booed throwing the first pitch at Yankee Stadium, and guess what? He comes out in the first drive of his first NFL game, perfect, 5 for 5, 76 yards, touchdown. Eat it, New York. This is your quarterback of the future. Again, only one game. I realize that.
Yes.
But I think that if he sits out for this year, learns what he needs to learn from under Eli Manning, you've got Daniel Jones and you've got Saquon Barkley, and then you're starting to build some things on offense. I don't think it would be too long out of the question to see New York kind of slowly get back to what they are accustomed to being.
I can't believe I'm actually going to say this.
I'm right.
So if I puke to the side, you'll know why. I could see Daniel Jones leading the Giants to great success in the future. And even so much so that it could happen later this season where he could take over the starting role and actually get the Giants some wins. And the only reason I say that, now he's not going to be like phenomenal because we already see what's happened to the Giants wide receiver core. There's not a whole lot there. It's a pretty empty cupboard. But Daniel Jones going into the following season, he might be set up for pretty decent success and could be the Giants could become a great bounce back candidate going into the 2020 season. Now, the thing I look at with this, Eli obviously did not play in this game at all. At his age and the success he's had, he doesn't have to play the preseason.
Right.
But Daniel Jones, I think, really showed something. He showed great execution, made great reads, made great throws, and was able to do everything that was asked of him. And that's the biggest thing, is that he was able to come through when asked. And Daniel Jones, I'm sorry, he's not going to sit out this whole season.
I agree, because I think the Giants, we both think that they're not going to be very good this year. So, of course, if Eli struggles, then they're going to bring in Daniel Jones.
Absolutely.
But one of the things I do want to point out is looking at the 5 throws that he made. The first throw, slant route, and it was a tiny window through a linebacker in a corner, and he nailed it. Just nailed it. And then the last throw, the touchdown throw, it was there was a slot receiver ran a fade to the back corner of the end zone, and it was only where the receiver could turn around and catch it right over his right shoulder,
and it was right where it
needed to be, and the defender could do nothing about it because the receiver didn't turn his head till the last second. Defender had no idea that it was there, and it was only in that window he had just enough time to put down his 2 feet. Touchdown. So, I mean, those kinds of throws, and he looked confident. He didn't look with jittery feet. He stood there, and he threw it where he needed to put it. And he had, even the pass before that, had a nice out route for a first down within the red zone, and it was right where it needed to be.
And that's the thing I like about Daniel Jones is that his timing is on point. He's able to stand in the pocket and be fearless. He has that confidence you need to be able to be a starting quarterback.
Right.
And I'm going to stick to my prediction. I think in the first 5 weeks, Daniel Jones is going to step in.
I think you could be right. But looking at his draft projections, he doesn't have a strong arm and he doesn't throw it down the field. Hey, Tom Brady for a long time never threw it down the field much.
That's true.
I mean, the West Coast offense can still be successful if you're not throwing the ball down the field. They have more possession guys. Golden Tate's a possession receiver. Yep. Evan Ingram at tight end is a possession tight end. You don't need to stretch the field, with having OBJ and throwing it deep and stuff like that. If you're moving the ball down the field in chunks at a time, whether it's to Saquon Barkley or him running the ball or running it and throwing it down 10, 12, 8 yards at a time, you're still going to get first downs. You're still going to move the ball, chew the clock, stay in games, and you can be successful.
And I think that's something that you had talked about a little bit earlier is that the Giants are kind of building towards the future now, having Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is going to be the biggest help to Daniel Jones' career just because of the fact he's going to be able to take so much pressure off of him. So it's definitely going to be great. We're definitely going to see what happens. And, obviously I hope the Giants fall completely on their face and go 0-16. But, again, I have to be realistic here and there. So we'll definitely see what happens. But, man, I tell you what, it's been fun this first week of preseason. Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. And, of course, some of the teams we've been talking about, we are actually we have to go to break.
Yes.
But when we come back, we are also going to be talking about the preseason predictions that we launched on Instagram earlier this week.
But before we get to that, hey, fans. Hey, I know a guy who says that a lot.
Yeah.
But did you know that you can actually get paid just for listening to Final Score? I know it sounds insane, but trust me, it's true. We just discovered this free new app. It's called PODCOIN. It literally pays you to listen to podcasts. And here's how it works. You listen to the podcast, you earn PODCOIN while you listen, and then you can turn that PODCOIN into gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks, or if you're a nice, good, charitable person like me and Craig, you can go and donate that PODCOIN to charity. And then the more you listen, the more you earn. So here's what you do. Download the app right now on your iPhone or Android device, and we have a special code for you. All you have to do is simply use our code FinalScore, one word, and you'll get 300 PODCOIN just for signing up. That's awesome. 300 PODCOIN just for signing up? That's awesome. And then if you listen enough to us, you can get a cappuccino at Starbucks, Amazon gift card, and it'll be on us because you went and listened to this great sports show called Final Score. So just go ahead, go listen to this podcast or virtually any podcast on PODCOIN and sign up with code FinalScore and get your free PODCOINs today. Tell you what, it's awesome stuff.
It's awesome. That's how I listen to podcasts anymore.
Oh, that's the way to do it.
Just use PODCOIN because you get paid for it. I mean, how awesome is that? You get paid for doing something that you probably already do anyway.
Exactly. It only makes sense. So go ahead, sign up, use that code FinalScore, get some PODCOINs, and listen to Final Score or any other podcast you want. But you want to listen to Final Score.
You want to listen to us.
But at the end of the day, though, we still have to pay the rest of our light bill. So definitely make sure that you stay tuned with us. When we come back, we're going to be covering some of our 2019 NFL season predictions. Some are a little crazy,
and some are very crazy. It's gonna get intense.
It might get heated.
It's gonna get a little heated.
So if you want to make sure you catch that, just stay with us. We'll be right back.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Taproom on Facebook.com/City Limits Taproom. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/SportsSanityCustoms. 3Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3CountDesign for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit DemoBlastStudios.com. Visit Demoblast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
And we are back here on Final Score with Chris and Craig. And we're going to talk about some awesomeness because we have our 2019 NFL season predictions. And yes, if you've been following us on social media, which you should be, and if you're not, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at PCN Final Score. You can go check out a lot of these predictions that we've been releasing over the past week or so. And there's been some crazy ones. I know by me, I'm sure that Craig is ready to yell and scream at some of the things I'm going to say about his team. But at the end of the day, though, we need to hit the ground running. So right at the top, number 32 for me was the Buffalo Bills.
Or at the bottom in this case.
Well, yes, at the bottom of the list.
The worst team in the NFL next year for you will be
the Buffalo Bills at 2-14.
Woo.
Now, for Buffalo, I only have them winning 2 games. Week 7 against the Dolphins at home and Week 9 against the Redskins at home. And the thing with Buffalo Bills is that they have very weak quarterback play. Josh Allen did not really prove himself as a franchise quarterback to me last season. He made a lot of subpar throws, had a lot of turnovers, and it didn't really help. He didn't really have a lot to throw to anyways. And you look at the running game, you still have LaShawn McCoy, which isn't horrible, but it isn't great. This isn't the Philadelphia Eagles LaShawn McCoy. This is your Buffalo Bills LaShawn McCoy. So looking at that, you have no real playmakers outside of that, and you have a subpar defense. I feel the Buffalo Bills are going to literally stumble to 2-14, and it's going to be a very down year from the 6-10 slate they had last year.
Man, I could see that, but they had too good of an offseason to get 2 wins for me. But I have them winning just a couple more games, not too many. But my number 32 team is the Miami Dolphins.
Okay, I can see this.
I have them going a stunning 1-15.
After a 7-9 campaign?
After a 7-9 campaign, I have them going 1-15.
All right, now
this coming season.
You got to back this up. Why are they going to go 1-15? That's horrible.
So, of course, you got the new coaching staff, Brian Flores, who was a position coach.
Yes.
And that's it. Like, he hasn't had any no real defensive coordinator experience to speak of. Never been a head coach otherwise. So he's brand new, and he's done some good things as far as trying to create his culture and his own vision. Mm-hmm. They did great by locking up Xavier Howard, Devontae Parker, locking up one of the better corners last year, and a weapon on offense.
Right.
You add Josh Rosen and Fitzmagic. But you traded away Robert Quinn. They're obviously building towards the future. They're not shy about saying that.
Trying to.
And everyone else in the AFC East has improved much more than they did.
I can absolutely agree with that.
Because your Bills that you have right here at 32 at 2 wins, I think they've done much better to improve than the Dolphins have. So saying right there, I've got the Dolphins winning their one game. It's in Week 15 at New York against the Giants. I have them losing every single game in the AFC East. I have them getting swept completely in the AFC East.
Oh, that's painful.
Now, not to say they're going to get blown out in those games.
Right.
Home games, they beat New England last year in that kind of a miracle game. If Fitzpatrick can kind of do what he did the first half of the season in Tampa last year in Miami, you're going to see a couple more wins. But I think their ceiling is like 5 wins. Their ceiling is 5 wins this year. They did not improve enough to me on defense or on offense to kind of warrant any potential decent season. I think they're going to decline no matter what. And they've already said they're going to be building for next year's draft, where you've got your franchise quarterbacks that are going to be coming out potentially. But don't say it. Don't do it.
Hashtag tanking for Tua.
Damn it, he did it. But I don't think they're gonna be that good. I mean, realistically looking at their schedule, they've got a tough schedule. The only other games they could potentially win, I think they could win a home game against the Redskins in Week 6. Maybe beat the Buffalo Bills. Maybe beat the Jets. I think they're too improved. The Bengals in Week 16, they could beat them. But I mean, still, that's only 4, maybe 5 wins.
Yeah.
I don't see them winning more than 5 games this year.
Yeah, I have to agree. The ceiling is quite low for them this year, but we'll definitely see how it goes. But at 31, I have the Arizona Cardinals, who are going to mimic last year's record and go 3-13 again. Why? Because this is flat out just going to be a rebuilding year. You got to get Kyler Murray used to a new offense that is brought in by a new head coach, and it's going to be a lot of turnover. From last year to this year. So it's going to be a lot of learning, a lot of getting used to new things. And I think it's now that they're going to stumble, I think they'll be able to be competitive, but they're just not going to be able to finish games. And I think that's going to show a lot, especially when they win. They're going to be able to start the season right, though, with a Week 1 win at home against the Detroit Lions.
First of all, that's disputing that. There's no way.
Oh, when you hear what I have to say about the Lions, you'll see how much that makes sense. But from there, they will literally stumble all the way to Week 9 when they get a home win against the 49ers.
I could see that.
And then all the way to Week 14 with a home win against the Steelers, because the Steelers at that point would have already packed it in and realized that their season's over.
So you have them the Steelers not doing well either this year.
No, I do not have them going very well either.
I could see that being a stolen game because they're traveling out west. I could see that one potentially. That's an interesting pick. I also have them at 31. Also going, I have them going 2-14 actually, not 3-13. But I do have them stealing 2 games on the road. I think they only win 1 game in their division, and it's at the 49ers.
Okay.
But I mean, it's because of how the season falls at that point for the 49ers and their schedule. They could flip that game and win the home game against the 49ers. I don't see them winning any other game in their division. Maybe steal a game against Seattle, but even then, I don't know.
That's iffy.
But it's because Cliff Kingsbury brings this air raid offense to the NFL. It's very unproven. You have no idea how it's going to work. They got rid of Josh Rosen, who was their franchise. Now they got a new franchise quarterback, Kyler Murray. Patrick Peterson suspended for the first 6 games. So even then, there's a big reason why they're not beating Detroit, because you don't have a lockdown corner to try to lock down any of the receivers. Kenny Golladay, and you got still Amendola if he's healthy. He can run around the field and do some things, but I don't see them winning their first 6 games at all. Week 7, then they'll get a first win when Patrick Peterson comes back, if he comes back. They got they got a lot of young talent. They're definitely rebuilding for next year, so I agree that they're not going to be successful, but I have them only winning 2 games instead of 3.
Ooh, look at you go. Well, at 30, I have the Miami Dolphins. Now, with the Dolphins, like you said, that ceiling's right around 4 or 5 wins. I agree. I have them going 3-13, taking a huge hit from that 7-9 campaign they had last year. And it's because of the same reason. They flat out didn't do enough to be able to improve the team. And like you said, they're in a rebuild. And the front office has already come out and said that this pretty much is a rebuild, and they're worrying about going into next season more so than this season. Now, Fitzmagic, I think, will be the one that's probably going to get predominantly all these wins. I don't think Josh Rosen is even going to barely see the field because I think Fitzmagic is going to be entrenched unless he gets injured, which definitely could happen given how long Fitzmagic's been playing. He's not necessarily, the good old spring chicken he used to be.
Right.
So I think Miami will literally stumble 3-13. I have them winning week 2 at home against the Patriots because it'll still be early in the season, and they always play great at home against the Patriots.
They do. They always do.
So I think they steal that one. But from there, they're going to stumble all the way to week 9 when they get a home win against the Jets because I have them splitting with the Jets this year. And then they are going to split with the Bills and pull off a week 11 win. So from there, they lose everything else because their schedule really isn't set up to really help them because they have to play teams like the Ravens playoff team, Cowboys playoff team, Chargers were a playoff team.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So the Redskins, I think, are even going to be better than what the Dolphins are going to be able to do. And the Eagles, the Patriots, they play a lot of hard teams. The Colts, so it's not going to be an easy schedule for them. So 3-13, that's the best they're going to be able to do.
My number 29 team is going to be the New York Football Giants. I have them going 2-14. I got a few 2-14 teams this year. So at number 30, I do have them going 2-14. Again, It's a rebuilding year. I have them starting off the season not too bad. I have them winning back-to-back games. The only 2 games they win of the year are going to be at Tampa Bay because I think Tampa Bay is going to be horrible.
Yes.
And then a home game against the Redskins. But the Giants, they open the season at Dallas. That's a tough game. Then they play Minnesota. They just got a lot of tough games in this season. I'm looking at their schedule, but I have them winning 2 games back to back. And then by the end of the season, you've got games that I think Daniel Jones will be playing in. But by week 9 or 10, you've got Dallas at the Jets, which is basically a home game. And then you've got Chicago, Green Bay, Philadelphia, all those games. Even if Daniel Jones plays, they're losing them all.
Probably by a wide margin.
And maybe they win week 15 against Miami, but I don't think they sweep Washington.
Oh, definitely.
So, I mean, I think, 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 wins if they beat Arizona in week 7. But I think it's going to be a down year for them.
Absolutely. You have the New York Giants at 30. I have them at 29. I also have them doing just literally a tick better than 2-14. They're going 3-13, and they're going to have wins week 2 against the Bills at home, week 7 at home against the Cardinals, and then week 15 at home against the Dolphins. That is it. I don't think they have enough to be able to do anything else the rest of that season because the Giants are going to be going through this pain point with Eli Manning. Now, Eli might get that win against the Bills, and that'll probably be about it. But looking at where they're going to be at come week 7, they're already going to be, 1-5? That's horrible. Daniel Jones steps in, gets the win against the Cardinals, and starts the rest of the season. Calling it now.
All right. I like it. It's bold. Bold prediction. Number 29 for me, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. They went 6-10 last year, but I have them going 2-14 this year because they made an interesting head coaching hire. They hired Zach Taylor, who was the QB coach at the LA Rams last year. Andy Dalton, you got to figure out what you're going to do with him. I think he's got one foot out the door. I think they're trying to find a way to just maybe wade through his contract and get rid of him. AJ Green is hurt. Your whole offense is predicated around Joe Mixon. I don't think he's going to be as successful this year because teams are going to be ready for him. On defense, didn't really do much to really improve, and I think in that division, every other team in the NFC North has gotten way better. They've gotten way better. So I've got them winning 2 games, week 5 at home against Arizona, and then week 16 at Miami, just as a throw-in game. Like, that's going to be a toss-up game, in my opinion. But other games, I just have them starting 0-4. They're going to lose Seattle, San Francisco, at Buffalo, at Pittsburgh, all losses. They're gonna, I don't see any of them. Maybe they could win at Oakland, but they're traveling to the West Coast, so I see that as a loss. I don't think they win any. I think they win 2 games. I really don't have any high expectations for them.
No, it makes sense, definitely, especially with the kind of schedule they have, and they haven't really done much. And with their quarterback play, it's been kind of meh at best. But now to my number 28. Now, I'm ready.
These are fighting words, sir.
I'm ready to see your face go red with things I'm about to say.
These are fighting words.
Just so you know, though, I didn't just pull this out of my butt talks. I actually have some stats to actually back some of this up.
Okay.
So, Detroit Lions at number 28 for me. Now, last year they went 6-10, and this next season they're going to go 3-13. I hope you're ready for a down year, sir, because the defense I still feel is subpar. They did make some good moves getting Trey Flowers and people like that, but I still feel that their defense isn't going to be able to be to the level where they need it. And the biggest thing that I always see with them is consistency issues. Sometimes they'll come out and play great. Next week, they play like garbage. So, and even in game, and a perfect example, last year when they opened up the season against the Jets, they ended up coming out, had a pick 6 on Sam Darnold's first pass, and then ended up getting clobbered the rest of the game. And those are the kind of consistency issues that the Detroit Lions have. And the biggest thing is that Stafford, I'm sorry, is washed up, because he has not been able to really replicate what he was able to do even 8 years ago. Hell, even 2 years ago. He had his worst passing year last year in yardage. He only had a little over 3,700 yards, which he hasn't had that low of a total below 4,000 since 2010 when he was injured. And then you look at the amount of...
All right, time out.
Go ahead.
You said when he was injured?
Well, you only played 3 games.
The dude played with a broken freaking back last year with no offensive help. Finally had somewhat of a relevant rush game by the end of the year in Kerryon Johnson, who's going to have a step forward year this year.
Which I agree with. I think Kerryon Johnson will do better this year.
Kenny Golladay is still a young receiver, and he's maybe not going to be Kelvin Johnson level, but again, 0 receivers last year. There's nowhere to go but up on offense for this team. They improved on the offensive line. They drafted offensive linemen that are going to be guys that have been some of the highest grade offensive linemen in that draft class. Okay? Defense. You go out and get Trey Flowers, and you go and get guys that are going to help build your defense. I'm not high on the defense this year.
So I said they're only
for the Lions.
subpar. I don't think they're going to be horrible.
They were a top 10 defense by the end of the year last year. Look that up.
What were they overall?
We went 6-10. Absolutely. I'm not disputing that, but I'm saying that they had, by the end of the year, they had a top 10 defense.
In yardage, you had a number 10 defense, which isn't bad. But I don't see you guys being able to replicate that type of production. Now, Trey Flowers, like I said, he's going to be probably the best part of your defense this upcoming season. But I still don't think they're going to be what everybody thinks they're going to be. I still have them going about middle of the pack for this year. Maybe 15-10. 10 if they're doing real good, but I see them more towards 15. Still going to be a decent defense. The offense is where the issues are going to be, and that's usually where your inconsistencies end up laying. And it's not really so much that I feel Matt Stafford is fully washed up. He's about half washed up. The thing is, he's getting older, and he doesn't...
He's still only 31 years old.
Yeah, and he's been able to throw for 4,000-plus yards until last season. And yes, I understand he had the back issue. It was basically playing with a broken freaking back, like he's Kurt Angle or something. But at the end of the day... I still think he's going to do about the same. He might break 4,000 yards this year, but I still think he's going to have right around 20 touchdowns, and he's still going to have a decent amount of turnovers. Last year he had 11 picks, and that's another thing too, is that turnovers are an issue for Matthew Stafford. He's had double-digit turnovers his entire career, except for his injured year. And that I think is a big sign that he could improve or he could get worse in that category. It really depends, but I don't see him getting better this season until they're able to truly get some weapons around him that are really going to be consistent weapons.
So I don't throw it all on his shoulders. I think it's more of an indictment of the franchise in general because of the fact, okay, look, last year on offense, we ranked 23rd in rushing yards, 23rd in rushing touchdowns. If you can even improve on that with, you brought in C.J. Anderson and you still got Kerryon Johnson, who should be the number 1 back. If you improve on those numbers, you don't have to force the ball down the field as much anymore. And yeah, you were 20th in offensive passing yards, 22nd in offensive pass touchdowns, but they were still, they were still in the top, he's in the top 15 as a quarterback from a production standpoint, even with a huge injury that was not really disclosed the whole year. But Stafford has always had the problem of not having enough around him. If he had great offensive years, no defense. If he's got a great passing numbers, no running game. So they're the New Orleans Saints of 5 years ago, where all they did was pass. The problem now, and this is what I think could hurt the Lions this year, is Stafford does not fit into Patricia's offensive scheme.
And that's exactly what I was going to bring up.
Which is why you saw down numbers last year, but he still threw for 3,500 passing yards and over 20 touchdowns. Most years, those are pretty good numbers. But when you got guys throwing for 5,000 yards, I will say Matt Stafford threw for 66% completions last year. He was better than Pat Mahomes. Just saying. Pat Mahomes had all that, but he threw for 65.
That's true. That's true. And honestly, the 66% is his second best completion percentage throughout his career for a season. So it's it was horrible. But
it's because he's adjusting to a new offense. And so when you got a guy who can bomb it downfield, like Matt Stafford, and that's his game. He's not the guy who's going to be like Daniel Jones, who's going to dink and dunk it and throw it, 10, 5, 8, 15 yards and dink and dunk. He's a throw it down the field, stretch the field type of quarterback. That does not sit well with Matt Patricia's offense. And if they can you see it, that's his second highest completion percentage of his career, but he's always been 60% or better. His last 4 years, he's never thrown under 65% completions. So it's there. It's just he needs more help.
And that's the thing I'm saying is that he needs help. But the thing I think is going to hurt him is the Matt Patricia offense. I don't think it's really predicated for how this team roster is really set up, honestly. I feel that he was able to hit all these gaudy numbers in previous seasons before last year because it was an offense predicated for a Matt Stafford passing attack, especially when you had Calvin Johnson Jr. But at the end of the day, this Matt Patricia offense is not one that's really well suited for Matt Stafford, nor is it for the type of personnel they have throughout everything. And they've already taken a hit in the wide receiver core as well with Jermaine Kearse going down. So when looking at it, I feel it's just not going to be able to all come together the way people think it is. Because honestly, I'm not really big on Matt Patricia as a head coach. I don't think he's a guy that's really going to be able to do what needs to be done because he doesn't have that kind of experience. He was a great coordinator, but he's not an offensive mind. And that's the thing that I think is really going to hurt the offense going forward. He's a defensive mind. And the defense, like I said, going to be top 15. But that offense is not going to be anywhere near there. They're going to be closer to where they were last year, if not lower. Last year, they ranked 22nd in total yards. It's just not going to – I don't think it's all going to come together offensively for them this year.
And looking at their schedule, you have the wins. All three of those wins you have, I see those. But the fact that you have them getting swept by every team in the NFC North is an absolute. I'm trying to find a better way to say it without cursing at you, but it is some of the biggest dog crap I've ever seen.
Let's look at it realistically. Minnesota Vikings have actually been a contender for the past few years. Last year was a little bit more of a down year.
Contender at 9 wins.
They have a lot more weapons, and a better defense than the Detroit Lions.
Kirk Cousins is an overrated quarterback.
This isn't about Kirk Cousins. This is about the rest of the team. The thing is,
the defense has not gotten that much better. It has not gotten that much better.
But it's still going to be better than what Detroit has, and that's what I see. And the thing is, the Packers.
And we swept the Packers last year, by the way.
And they're going to sweep you this year.
Yeah, bull. There's no way. There's no way.
Well, that's why the games are played, sir, and we'll see how it goes.
And
Chicago, Khalil Mack. Enough said.
I do have them getting swept by Chicago because they're really good. But
they really are.
If the Lions offense improves like it should with Kerryon Johnson actually being a feature running back that we haven't had in a number of years.
Very true. But that's if they keep him as a featured back. And that's what I worry about is that once you have a running back that starts not playing up to where they want, you just go to the next guy and see what happens.
The fact that we actually have a tight end that is going to be decent and is actually a good
for once, yes.
Yeah, the fact that we don't have Eric Dickhands Ebron on the team anymore, who drops every wide open pass known to man, and just couldn't put it together until he finally left and went to Indy. The fact that he was never a blocker, who's always going to be a passing guy.
Right.
You've actually got a guy in TJ Hawkinson who is the most complete tight end in this draft. He's a good run blocker. He can catch. He's already been showing out in training camp. I think he's going to have a solid year. Not a great year, not a Pro Bowl year or anything. That's way too high.
Oh, yes.
But I think he's going to have a solid year. He's going to get 50, 60 catches. He's going to have 500 to 700 yards. And I think he's going to have almost 10 touchdowns as a rookie. I am not kidding because they need a red zone threat. They need a red zone threat.
They
Outside
do.
of Kenny Golladay, they have nothing.
That is true.
And I think that's what TJ Hawkinson brings. I think he's going to bring an outlet for Matt Stafford to throw the ball a little bit down the field. If they can get that run game going the way Patricia wants, the play action comes into play more. That's where you see other guys getting open. A lot of it's going to be, you brought in the old offensive coordinator from Seahawks who knows how to get running backs the ball and knows how to run, draw up schemes for run blocking. And I think that's going to be a reason why they're going to do way better than 3 wins. Mine's going to come next week.
Oh, yeah,
for
we'll
the
see
Lions.
here. So for the 3 wins they get, it's going to be Week 8 at home against the Giants,
Yep.
Week 12 on the road at the Redskins,
Yep.
and Week 15 at home against the Buccaneers.
And you forgot splitting with at least splitting with Minnesota, at least splitting with Green Bay, winning on the road in Denver, winning Week 1 against Arizona, and potentially winning on the road at Oakland because they're going to be garbage.
The thing I look at, though, is I feel like the Detroit Lions are going to end up being demoralized. And that's why I think they're going to stumble to this record. Because look at how their season starts. Yes, you're at the Cardinals, which you would think would be a winnable game, but I have them losing that one. And it's because of the Kyler Murray factor. But then you have to go play the Chargers, the Eagles, and the Chiefs before going into your bye week, and then follow that up with the Packers and the Vikings before you get any kind of breath in with the rest of your schedule, where you still have to play the Bears twice, you still have to play the Cowboys, and you still have to play, like I said, the other half of the other teams in your division. So,
right, and I could see those 3 of the first 4 games are going to be very tough, but 2 of them are at home, and it's tough for teams to travel from West Coast to East Coast, losing that time difference.
that is true.
And it's going to be, I think they're going to be closer games than you would expect. Kansas City, maybe not so much. But okay, at Philly, we've always played Philly tough.
You have
all the time. And even though we both initially have them as doing very well this season, I think there's a potential that if Eagles don't come out the gate as they're expected to, they could potentially lose that game to Detroit.
Oh, stop.
I'm not kidding.
Happen.
We're gonna have to put a little friendly wager on that game.
Jordan Howard's gonna run all over that defense, and Carson Wentz is gonna look like
against one of the top-rated run defense last year. Okay, okay.
I mean, we have a better offensive line, than your defensive line. Sorry.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Ooh,
we have one of the top-rated. We have one of the.
Madden gave us the best overall team, sir, in Madden 20.
Yeah, and they screwed everybody over with those ratings. No team is rated higher than what, 85,
89.
Still, I mean, there's got to be at least 1 or 2 teams that are in the 90s.
Yeah, which I thought was very peculiar too for this edition of Madden. You don't have one single 90 or higher rated team.
Yeah, just saying. Defensively, we ranked number 8 in giving up passing yardage. We were in top 10 in run defense, and almost top 5 in giving up and run TDs. We were number 6 in defensive rushing TDs, number 10 in rushing yards, and number 8 in passing yards allowed. So
I love watching you defend the Detroit Lions.
You damn right I do. Detroit versus everybody. All right, we spent too much time on this. My next team at 28, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay last year went 5-11.
Oh yes.
So you don't. So first of all, you don't have Fitzpatrick to bail you out in the beginning of the season.
Nope.
Anymore. Now you got to rely on Jameis Winston. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, very good luck with that.
They could potentially steal some games early, but I have them only winning 2 games. Week 10 home against Arizona, and Week 17 home against Atlanta, because Atlanta's going to be fighting for a playoff spot, in my opinion. And I think that's a game that maybe they have a letdown game because, just something happens. But I see them only winning 2. Their ceiling to me is maybe win at home again. Maybe they split against Carolina, so there's 3 wins. Maybe winning at Tennessee, because I don't think Tennessee's going to be that great. There's maybe 4. And I have them splitting against Atlanta. If the Colts aren't as good as they are expected to be, if they lose luck, I think they could win that game too. So maybe 5 wins. So I think their ceiling is another 5-win season. But I think they're going to be a 2-14 team, maybe 3 to 4 wins, maybe.
Ooh, man.
So that's my number 28.
Well, for 27, I also have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have them going 3-13 with wins week 3 against the Giants at home, week 6 at home against the Panthers, which they'll split with that season, and week 10 at home against the Cardinals. I really do not feel Tampa really has much of anything to be able to really compete seriously. I think they get swept by the Falcons because even if the Falcons are going to be vying for a playoff spot, I don't see them being able to let themselves down enough to lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
With the only reason I have that is because I think Tampa is going to play a spoiler last week, and it's at home.
That could happen.
Yeah, maybe that could
happen.
But that's the only reason I have them winning.
And I could see that. I definitely could see that. But I always think Jameis Winston finds a way to lose. So at the end of the day, I think Jameis Winston is going to be the horrific Achilles heel, and they don't have really a running game or a feature back that's going to be able to be that consistent back for them. And outside of Mike Evans, you really don't have much weapons. And a couple tight ends that are okay.
And they have one of the worst running back rooms in the league.
Yes, they do. And it's going to be bad. And their defense is not what it used to be at all. Last year alone, Tampa Bay ranked 27th in total defense. That is horrendous, and I think it's going to end up being a repeat this year. So, Tampa, sorry, it's not going to be your year.
My number 27, I have the Washington Redskins. Last year they went 7-9. This year I have them going a dismal 2-14. I have them only winning one game on the road at Miami and then winning week 16 home against the Giants.
Ouch.
You don't have a quarterback.
Nope.
You've got Colt McCoy, Case Keenum, and Dwayne Haskins. I think Dwayne Haskins gets that win against the Giants as a revenge game to be like, hey, you should have drafted me. This is the win. This is the game I'm going to win. I think they have a revolving door at quarterback the first half of the season.
And I think that's going to hurt them horribly.
Yeah, and I think Colt McCoy will start. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to get destroyed in the first 3 weeks of the season. Philly, home against Dallas and Chicago.
Yeah, they're getting wrecked.
Think they get destroyed every single game. They lose a close game at New York in week 4, and I think that's where you see Case Keenum take over. Mm-hmm. Then they lose, win, lose, and then I think once you get to like week 11 or 12, you're going to see Dwayne Haskins the rest of the way.
Yep.
He gets one of their 2 wins, but AP is still aging. Maybe he has a decent year. Geis might act if he stays healthy. He's hurt all last year.
And he didn't even get to play. He hasn't played a single down yet.
You're not going to have Trent Williams. He's gone. You've got Donald Penn to take over, who's older. He was overweight, not a left tackle.
Not really in shape either.
Yeah, not really in shape. Defensively, they got some pieces. They're getting a little bit better, but I don't see them. Their defense is not going to be successful because they're going to be on the field way too much.
Yep.
I don't think this offense is going to be any good to get them more than 2 wins.
That and Washington ranked 17th in defense last year. I think they definitely take a step back just because, like you said, they're going to get tired out because that offense is not going to help them at all.
Yep.
But for my 26, though, I have the Denver Broncos, who last year went 6-10. I have them going 3-13.
Woo.
And it's just because of an aging defense, which is still decent. Don't get me wrong. The defense is still decent, but they're aging. But Joke Flacco, which I'm going to call him this season, Joke Flacco is going to be the Achilles heel of this team because Flacco made it very, very, very clear that Flacco is for Flacco and that is it. He doesn't care about Drew Lock. He cares about him and trying to get wins. But honestly, Flacco is not a great quarterback. He is not what he used to be, and even what he used to be wasn't all that great.
He was a top 15 quarterback at best.
At best. And that was during a Super Bowl year where your defense was bailing you out left and right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ray Lewis. So at the end of the day, Denver is going to be poultry. They're literally going to start on a 5-game losing streak to teams like the Raiders, Bears, Packers, Jaguars, and Chargers, which is kind of a tough slate already.
That's already really tough, yeah.
So they'll get their first win week 6 at home against the Titans. Then they're not going to get another win until week 12 at the Bills, which at this point I think Drew Lock is going to be starting. And then week 16, at home against the Lions.
That's a tough. I could see them potentially stealing that game at home against Detroit, but it depends on what Detroit's season, both of these seasons, how they shape up. That would be a tough game for Detroit to go on the road to win. But I think if they're in the position that you say where they have 2 wins up to that point, I don't think Denver wins. I really don't.
Well, I think it really is going to come down to Drew Lock because I think come the bye week, I think is when they make the switch. Because at that
week
point,
10, okay.
Because at that point, you're going to have Flacco being 1-8. And it only makes sense at that point because you know your season's going to be done because you're not going to win out because you look at the rest of the schedule after the bye week: Vikings, Bills, Chargers, Texans, Chiefs, Lions, and Raiders. It's not a great slate.
Yeah, of those teams, you got 3 of those teams are playoff. Actually, 4 and 5 of those teams are playoff hopefuls, being Minnesota, Buffalo, maybe L.A., Houston, and Kansas City.
Yeah, exactly. So I just feel Denver's not going to be able to hang with any of those. So they're going to go ahead, put in Drew Lock, let him get the game experience that he needs to prep for the next season when he becomes the starter.
I'm right there with you. I have Denver at number 26 as well, but I have them going 2-14 versus 3-13. This was a tough one for me because their defense is still good. I mean, their defense is still pretty good. I have the same exact schedule you do, except I have them losing to Detroit in Week 16. I have them winning Week 6 at home against Tennessee, or winning at Buffalo. But looking at their schedule, I think they could very well split with Oakland. Mm-hmm. Very well could.
It's possible.
And then the only other games they could potentially win, Indy, if Andrew Luck's not playing. Man. Other than that, I don't see. So, I mean, you got maybe 4-5 wins max if you sweep Oakland. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, they got 5 wins max. Offense, you got Phillip Lindsay in the backfield. You still got some pieces on the offense, but yeah, you got Joe Flacco. I think by the time around the bye week, there's a big rumbling to get Drew Lock in there. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they pull the trigger. I think Flacco stays the starter for 80 to 90% of the year.
Which I could see happening, but it's really going to require him to play at some type of level that's not complete garbage.
Right. So I've got them going 2 wins, ceiling of 5, but I got them going 2 wins.
Yeah.
So,
well, at 25, I have the Carolina Panthers. Now, this is surprising for some. I had them going. They went 7-9 last year. The reason I have them going 3-13 is one fact alone, and that's the fact that Cam Newton is not all there. Now, initially when he had his offseason shoulder surgery, people were saying, oh, maybe he'll be back, and he started saying he's feeling good, but he's already having issues with that shoulder again. He says it's not feeling quite as good as it should. He's been having tightness issues, and I feel this is really gonna hurt him because one thing I've noticed about Cam Newton is that if he goes through any kind of an injury spell, he always ends up getting in his head about it. And he's gonna again get in his head about this injury, and he's not gonna play well, and the shoulder's gonna hold him back no matter what. And add on to the fact that outside of Christian McCaffrey, you really don't have any playmakers. I think that's really, really gonna hurt him. Christian McCaffrey is gonna be the offensive star this year, and that's gonna be it. But it's not gonna be enough to help them win these games because I have them coming out. They're going to start the first 3 games. They're going to start 2-1, and it's going to look hopeful. But when you're coming out, you're going to lose week 1 to the Rams, but then you're going to pick up wins at home against the Bucks and on the road at the Cardinals. Yeah, you're going to be looking great. But then you got to play the Texans and Jags, who both have pretty solid teams that are going to be able to put down the Panthers, and then it's just going to roll from there all the way until week 13 when they get a win at home against the Redskins. So I don't feel that they really have a lot of chance. Like maybe they could pull off one against the Titans and split and beat the Titans. Maybe you might be able to sweep the Bucks because of how bad they'll be. But really outside of that, I don't see them being able really to pull off a lot of these games. Especially like people will say, well, what about the 49ers? Yeah. East Coast to West Coast. They got to go play on the West Coast at the 49ers. I think that'll play against them. They have to go play at they have to split against the Saints. Saints are juggernauts. There's no way they win either way. You got to play at the Packers, which also doesn't help them. So I just don't see it coming together for them this season.
So it's a good. I think that's their floor. I think their floor could be the 3 wins, 3 to 5 wins. But my number 25 team is going to be the Tennessee Titans. Last year, they went 9-7. They had a really good year. They even had a great offseason. They really did. They had a great offseason.
I don't know. Remember me blasting them about their drafting and how they treated the offseason.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, they had a really good offseason from a free agency standpoint. They're getting better. It doesn't help that now Jake Long is out for he's out for extended period because of I think it was suspension.
Right.
For something. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But anyway, I have them going 3-13. And this was a tough one because of the fact that their schedule is just daunting. I think they're going to start off 0-4. They got Cleveland, Indy, Jacksonville, Atlanta.
Ooh, that's hard slate.
and they are without Jake Long for all 4 of those games, and then he comes back week 5. I think they beat Buffalo at home. I think they lose at Denver. I just think they lose at Denver because I think Denver's defense is going to make enough plays for Tennessee to turnover. They traded for Tannehill, and you got Mariota. If those are your 2 options at quarterback, oh man.
Derek, with really your only playmakers being Derrick Henry and Humphreys.
And Dion Lewis is another guy.
Lewis,
but they really have to have their defense step up if they want to have even comparable to last year. But Jacksonville's not going to be 5-11 this year. I have them splitting because they always play Jacksonville tough in Tennessee.
Yep.
Jacksonville always loses in Tennessee for some reason. So I have them splitting with Jacksonville. But as far as a ceiling, again, if Andrew Luck doesn't play for Indy, I think they definitely could split.
Oh,
they might even sweep them. We'll see. But other than that, who else is in that? Oh, Houston. I think they get swept by Houston. Their other 2 wins, you got home against Tampa, home against Jacksonville. All 3 games, the win will be home. 3-13. I do not trust their offense any bit at all.
No, and especially seeing how they had their tight end Delaney Walker ended up being injured most of last year, and he's been playing for 14 seasons as it is. You don't have reliability there as an end-up check-down option, so that doesn't leave you with a whole lot outside of Humphreys and the running game. So I have to agree. I don't think Tennessee's going to be all that great. But make sure that you check our Instagram every day from now until the end of August when the season gets ready to start for all the teams that we're going to be covering and revealing our predictions for as we go forward. It's going to be really exciting. So definitely make sure you check it out at PCN Final Score. But, man, you got heated today.
Hey, I'm going to defend my Lions to the death, okay?
I just love that once we get to the Eagles, I'm not going to have to defend them quite as hard as you did.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, even looking at how after I already put it in writing, I'm looking at their schedule and going, man, I don't think they're going to be that. I think they're going to have a couple more losses, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that when we get there.
We'll burn that bridge when we cross it. But one thing we need to do is change a little bit of gears, and we're going to take a look at a little bit of NBA news. And you had an interesting thing pop up.
Yeah, so we had the USA Basketball hosted their blue-white scrimmage. They're getting ready for the FIBA World Cup. And ESPN posed an interesting question on their Twitter the other day. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get your opinion on this. So, of course, every time we come around USA Basketball, we always talk about their standing in the world. And then they always bring up the Dream Team in 92. And then, of course, the letdowns in the mid-2000s. Then the Redeem Team they talk about and how they went out and got gold.
Oh, yeah, back in 08.
Back in 08. So here's the question.
Okay.
Dream Team versus the Redeem Team.
Oh.
Who you got?
Man, that's hard. I mean, when you look at the lineups for the 92 U.S. men's basketball team, you had a lot of greats on there like David Robinson, Patrick Ewing. You had an aging Larry Bird at that point, Karl Malone, Scottie Pippen. Of course, you can't forget Charles Barkley or Magic Johnson or of course, Michael Jordan.
Oh, of course, the GOAT.
The GOAT. But even when you look at the Redeem Team was pretty stacked. When you had guys like Carlos Boozer and LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, of course, Dwight Howard when he was in his prime, Kobe Bryant. We can't forget Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, I can't forget Kobe.
Chris Bosh, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony. You know, it was just crazy looking at the lineup they have. Oh my goodness, it's so hard. Looking at these two.
I'll make this a little bit harder for you.
Of course you do.
Make it a little bit harder.
Not you.
So, not taking the benches away.
Okay.
Starting 5-on-5. Okay.
Right.
The Dream Team has Magic, Michael, Scotty, Malone, and Barkley. Okay, so that's the Dream Team. They got Magic and then Jordan, Pippen, Malone, and Barkley.
Okay.
The Redeem Team has Wade, Kobe, Carmelo, LeBron, Dwight Howard.
And this is 2008 Dwight Howard. Oh.
Yeah, this is old. This is prime Dwight Howard.
Orlando Magic prime Dwight Howard. Honestly, this is so tough. I feel like no matter what, it would be extremely close.
Yep.
I can't believe I have to go with it. I'm going to say the Redeem Team because of one factor alone.
What's that?
Kobe Bryant. Because Kobe
Think so.
Bryant, especially in 2008, was still dropping dimes like it was no tomorrow. The dude could score and score and score and score and score. And his presence and his play was able to help elevate others around him. Now, I'm not saying that guys like Michael Jordan couldn't do the same, but Kobe Bryant, I think, was just a modern-day Superman of scorers. I mean, hell, even in his last game he ever played, he had, 50 points?
He had 60, but he also took like 40 shots.
I mean, that's just a side note.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think I would have to take the Redeem Team in a narrow, hair-thin game.
So
Hair-thin close.
the other question that always comes up with these, but no one ever brings up. Okay, it's a question that should come up but never does. Which era of rules are you going with?
Ooh, that's a very good point.
Here's how I decide it. If we're going 90s rules, Dream Team all day.
Yes.
Because they
could
can
agree
play
with that.
much more physical. I think Barkley could get into Dwight's head.
And
I
Dwight
think
would just
he
get
would
mad.
And Dwight I think would give up because we started seeing at that point, if Dwight didn't get his way, he started pouting and then he just disappeared in the offense. And I think as much of a physical presence as LeBron is, I think Scottie would keep him in check. And you could even if you had Karl Malone guarding LeBron, he would keep him serviceable.
Right.
Scottie would lock up Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, all day.
Lock up a young Carmelo
All
Anthony
day.
with the old rules.
Right.
And then watching just the matchup of Jordan and Kobe, of those two in their primes, that would be the ticket right there.
Oh, God, that'd be so
and I
amazing
think
to see.
Magic would be agile and lengthy enough to be able to kind of keep D Wade in, kind of don't let him get loose.
Especially with Dwayne Wade being only 6'4" and Magic being 6'9", I think that would play heavily into that.
But D Wade's very, very quick. He's much quicker than Magic. But I think based on how that team defensively played, and they didn't do it from offensive scoring. They just crushed people on the defensive end.
Yes.
So I think if you use old rules, Dream Team wins. If you're using new school rules,
Redeem Team.
I think it's Redeem Team by a very slight margin because
yes.
all those guys that I mentioned on the Redeem Team, outside of Dwight Howard, volume scorers. Carmelo can light it up. He can stretch the floor. LeBron at that point hadn't completely developed his three-point shot, but he is a force running down the lane. Kobe, he can do whatever you need him to do. He can work off the ball. He can run around screens. He can shoot off of those screens. He can get to the hole. He can spot up if you need to. And D Wade, they don't really have a true point guard on this team, but I think D Wade could play off of those guys enough, get to the hole, and they could slightly win this game.
Well, there's another thing too I kind of want to bring up is that when we started switching to what the kind of rules the Redeem Team would have been playing under, is that since it wasn't as physical, passing became a lot more of a prevalent tool to be able to use to get guys into scoring position. And I think that is ultimately what end up helping them is being able to move the ball around enough to be able to find the open guy.
I think that would help the Dream Team more because I think they played more. They had better. I think overall, looking at this roster, they have better passers than the Redeem Team would.
Well, I mean, if we're only going starting five versus starting five,
That's what I'm saying. Starting five versus starting five because Karl Malone, underrated passer. Charles Barkley at this point in 92 was going into his MVP season with Phoenix.
This is true.
And Karl Malone was a very athletic power forward for his time. And he wasn't just like what we expect of a low post scorer. He was a face-up scorer in the 90s. He could play back to the basket, but he ran really well in the pick and roll.
Right.
And if you've got Magic in a pick and roll with Karl Malone, dude,
That's a good point.
Kobe and Michael would go back and forth, of course, but Michael can do whatever you need. He could take over a game if you need to. I don't think anybody on that team could guard Michael in his prime.
No,
LeBron
Absolutely
would come
not.
the closest just because of his length and his size.
Right.
Kobe would come the closest in terms of tenacity.
But I don't think anybody could truly be able to nobody could shut down Michael Jordan.
And Pippen was mostly a defender, but he was an underrated offensive player.
Mm-hmm.
Very much underrated offensive player. So I think that game in the new rules, I think it would be a very close game. It might even be like an overtime type game, but
Oof, yeah, I can see that.
I think Redeem Team could squeak that out, but I still think Dream Team overall would win.
Well, I still think Redeem Team would win too because of one factor, one thing that links both of these teams in real time.
Irrelevant.
No. This always plays big, and that's coaching because Coach K coached as an assistant coach for the Dream Team and was the head coach of the Redeem Team.
Yeah, but Chuck Daly was a much better defensive coach. Chuck Daly is a legend in coaching, not because he coached my Detroit Pistons, but
still.
But honestly, from a defensive standpoint, Chuck Daly would draw something up to neutralize the scorers on the Redeem Team. And as you said, Mike Krzyzewski was an assistant on that team. PJ Carlissimo, who was a great coach in the 90s, was a coach on this team. I think Dream Team could lock him up. I think they could. I think they could lock him up.
I think either way, it'd be an extremely exciting game.
God, I wish
probably
we could.
more trash talking than we've ever seen in an NBA game before.
Oh, it would have been great. And
I mean, outside of the Malice of the Palace, but you know.
I think the Dream Team of the 90s could get into the heads of the Redeem Team outside of one Kobe Bryant.
Right.
Kobe was just on a different level than everybody else on that team.
Yeah.
So, I think Dream Team, the amount of trash talking and the amount of just defensive tenacity from that Dream Team, I think they would win in their own rules, but I think they could still win in the new rules.
Oh man, I tell you what, it would be exciting to see. But sadly, we will never see that. But man, we can only dream, can't we?
Yeah.
But one thing that we got to take a look at though, Major League Baseball, things are getting kind of crazy now that we're getting closer to the end of the season. Everybody's trying to get themselves in position to try and make a push towards October. And it's been wild. We've seen teams get hot, teams go cold, big moves at the trade deadline. Things are just getting nuts. If you joined us for our last episode, we covered a lot of those moves at the trade deadline.
Absolutely.
Probably some of the most activity we've seen at the trade deadline in quite a number of years. But to start things off, though, we got to take a look at the standings. What we got at the standings right now?
So we're looking at the AL East. The New York Yankees still hold a 9.5 game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays. They've been 9-1 in their last 10. They have really been pulling away, even from an AL standpoint.
Right.
They are tied with the Houston Astros for the best record in the AL. Boston, your boys are struggling, man.
Yeah, they've been hurting. They've been getting kind of beat up on, and they've dropped a lot of games recently. So much so that we've actually started falling back in the wild card race, which we will touch on here in a little bit. But they've just been not looking good. Not looking good.
Yeah, Cleveland finally caught up to Minnesota in the AL Central. They are tied at 70 and 46. And just like we were talking about, eventually, we talked about this last week and even a couple weeks ago, I think Cleveland's going to slowly inch over, and they are going to overtake Minnesota. They're going to win the AL Central. And I think this is the time where they catch them. I think it's only put them in the rearview mirrors. I think they're going to win the AL Central from here.
Definitely could, and they definitely have that possibility. Cleveland's won 8 of their last 10, which is huge, while Minnesota's gone even 5 for 5. So definitely starting to pull, but so I still play the game, so we'll see what happens. But looking over at the AL West, Houston is still running away that division. They have a 10-game lead over the Oakland A's and are currently 76 and 40, 9-1 in their last 10, still pouring it on, and now have a pitching rotation that's probably the scariest in baseball.
Absolutely. I think they definitely won the trade deadline. And as far as how they've been post-trade deadline, I think they are right at the top of, if we were to release power rankings today, I think they're right there, at number 1 because of those trades and how they've been playing since.
Absolutely. But look, switching gears over to the National League, looking at the NL East, the Atlanta Braves are holding a 6.5 game lead over the Washington Nationals, 8 games ahead of the Phillies and Mets. And we're not even going to talk about the Marlins, but the Braves have literally just been killing it. They've seemed to just kind of turn it all around this year and have been making a big push, playing great baseball to be able to get into this position.
Watch out for the New York Mets, man. They have been playing so well since the trade deadline. They made that trade for Marcus Stroman, and they have been absolutely on fire. I'm not kidding. They have been tearing it up over the last month or so, and they are on a 7-game win streak, 9-1 their last 10. They have finally pulled their run differential in the positive.
Finally.
And they have been playing extremely well. They're actually finally a contender for that to make the playoffs. So you better watch out, every other team. And finally, the NL East is becoming what we thought it would be at the beginning of the season. It is a 4-team race for one and maybe one wild card. Maybe
at best. I mean, with how everything's been playing out, who knows how this is going to end, but definitely make sure that you stay tuned as we bring you more updates on that. But looking at the NL Central, the Chicago Cubs do have a 2.5-game lead over the Milwaukee Brewers and have won 7 of their last 10. Not great, but hey, it's manageable. But they still also have a 3-game lead over the Cardinals, who are still kind of hanging around, and the Reds are 7 games back. But I think the Reds are kind of falling off at this point. They haven't been playing the greatest baseball as of late, so I think they're starting to fall off more. So I think this is really going to end up being just a 3-team race for the Central. Yeah,
trading away their pieces at the deadline kind of sold it, I think, for them, that they're going to try to build for the future. The Cardinals, who got ever so close to taking over the NL Central, they've been falling off by the wayside, and they, again, fall to 3 games back. I thought they would kind of hold off and stay ahead of the Brewers, but Christian Yelich is still playing MVP caliber. They just need pitching help, man.
That's been their biggest problem the whole year.
That's been their hurt, but they've been on a 4-game win streak. The Brewers have. I still think the Cubs win this division, and if Milwaukee wants to make the playoffs, they got to get one of those wild card spots.
Oh, absolutely. But looking at the NL West, with the best team in baseball, the LA Dodgers at 77-41, 8-2 in their last 10. Lost their last game, though, but I don't think that's going to be too big of a thing given the fact that they have a 17-game lead over the Arizona Diamondbacks. So at this point, I think the LA Dodgers have all but locked up the West Division.
And Arizona's actually been playing pretty well since they traded away Zach Greinke. I was a little surprised. I thought they'd kind of pack it in and be like, okay, we're done. We're going to move on, rebuild. They're still in the thick of it for the wild card spot. They've won 3 in a row. They still have a positive run differential. The Giants made a push right after the deadline, and now they fell back to where they were before. 3-7 their last 10. Of course, the Rockies have been a huge disappointment this year after what they did last year, and the Padres, better than what people were thinking, even though they're still 21 games back of the Dodgers, but. That's about what we expected this division to fall into.
Oh, for sure. But looking at the actual wild card for the American League right now, you have the Indians and Twins sitting there, nice and pretty. But obviously, this is going to change once one wins a division.
Right.
But Tampa is probably going to be the one that's going to slot in. The Oakland A's, half game out. Boston Red Sox 5.5 out. So it's getting kind of tight, but we'll see what happens as things progress.
Tampa Bay's got to be careful because they really struggled over the last month up until recently again. And they really struggled for a stretch for a couple weeks, and now they finally starting to get back in the winning column. They have that second wild card spot, but I would not be surprised if Oakland overtakes them and steals that last wild card position. And Texas Rangers have been playing really well, even though they're still 8 games back, lost their last 3. They were on a tear for a couple weeks. Looked like they were going to inch really closely to that second wild card. Your Boston Red Sox, man, I just brought it up before. We got to bring it up again. They really need to figure something out.
At one point, they lost 8 straight games, losing a 4-game series. Every single game to the Yankees, lost a 3-game series to the Rays. And it's just been pretty porous. Now, as of right now, though, they are on a 2-game winning streak and currently playing the Angels, but are down 3-0 in the bottom of the second. So, I don't know. Red Sox need to get things going. We thought pitching was going to be a very big helper for them, but it just hasn't been there quite as much. Chris Sale's been having a really off year. So, I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So, they're going to have to get on the horse if they want to try and get in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Over in the NL, we're looking at the wild card position. Man, look at you've got the first 6 teams. Top 6 teams are all right there within 2 games of each other. You've got the Nationals, who have one of the wild card spots. The Brewers are slightly holding on to the second, with the Cardinals, Phillies, and Mets all a half game back. Crazy. Of that second spot.
And even the Diamondbacks are only a game and a half. Giants are 4. Cincinnati Reds are 4.5. So really, the wild card spots can be any one of these teams Could be any one of them that could take it. But, hey, we'll end up finding out, won't we?
The one thing I mentioned, the Mets, they have only lost 6 games in the second half of the season. They went on win streaks of 4, and then what do we got? 3, 6, 7 games, another 7-game win streak, and their current win streak of another 7 games. So I mean, they are just on fire right now, only losing those 6 games since the second half of the season, and they're not against slouches. They swept a 2-game road series at Minnesota. They swept the Pirates, and then all these teams they played recently have been the Pirates twice, where they only lost 1 game out of 6. They swept the White Sox. They won 2 out of 3 against the Padres, and now they're playing the Marlins. They swept them 4 games. Now they're getting into the meat of where they could really separate themselves. They've won 1 of 3 so far against Washington. They have 3 games at Atlanta, and then they get back into, they play Cleveland, Atlanta, Cubs, Phillies, Washington, Phillies.
That's a hard slate.
Arizona, Dodgers. I mean, they could kind of cool off, but if they're playing as hot as they have been the first half of the season, watch out. They could make that playoff spot and make me look smart in the process. I did have them squeaking in as a wild card at the beginning of the year, but did not expect them to play as crappy as they did the first half of the year.
Definitely. And it's funny you bring up the Mets because as we go to MLB Best of the Week, the Mets are my best of the week.
All right.
Because the Mets' recent magic has reached a whole new level as Todd Frazier belted a game-tying 3-run blast off Sean Doolittle in the 9th, and then Michael Conforto soon followed with his first career walk-off hit to give New York its 7th straight win. The Mets were 0-44 when trailing entering the 9th before this thrilling 7-6 victory. Hats off to the Mets. It's just been magical.
It's been fantastic. My best of the week goes to Miami Marlins second baseman Isan Diaz. He was promoted to the majors on Monday, last week Monday, and he was in the lineup against reigning NL Cy Young champ Jacob deGrom. So after a couple of at-bats in the 6th inning, he had his family in the stands because they were there for his debut. Awesome moment. They were interviewing him while Isan was up to bat. Isan drilled a 97-mile-an-hour fastball into right field for his first ever major league hit. It's also his first major league home run, and his father was being interviewed at the time. It's been all over the internet. It's been all over Facebook and Instagram. It was such a great moment just to see the raw emotion of that moment. And I mean, some things are bigger than baseball. That's always the fun phrase to say, and that, in my opinion, is what baseball and what sports is all about. Is stories like that.
Yes, hats off to you. That is an awesome moment, and definitely is going to help cement him being on a roster.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be, I think, the second baseman moving forward. Not just because of that. He was killing it in AAA as well. He's been doing really, really well. So that's what Miami does. They have a great farm system, build guys up, and you're ready to go. All right, go have a successful career otherwise.
Yep, right. And just trade you away.
I.e. Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah, right. But I'm talking about some history, though. We're going to take a look at this week in sports history. You got a lot of interesting ones this week.
Yeah, we got a lot of them. We're going to roll through these fairly quickly. I guess I'll start the first one here. On August 9th, 1946 is the first time all Major League Baseball games are played at night. There are only 8 of them, but it's the first time ever all the Major League Baseball games were played at night. Man,
that's pretty big. But back August 9th, 1975, the first NFL game was played in the Louisiana Superdome, with Houston beating the hometown Saints 13-7.
On August 9th, 1988, the Edmonton Oilers traded Wayne Gretzky to the LA Kings for $15 to $20 million.
Oh, yeah, that was a huge move then.
That was a huge move at that point.
Oh, yes. But looking back, August 11th, 1919. Yes, we're going back 100 years. The Green Bay Packers Football Club was founded by George Calhoun and Curly Lambeau and was named after their sponsor, the Indian Packing Company.
There's so many bad jokes I could make about them.
Oh,
and
there's
their
so
name.
many we could.
So many. But one of the storied franchises, the NFL, one of the original teams of the NFL. So it's actually been great to see that they've been around for so long, being a small market that Green Bay is.
Oh, absolutely.
On August 8th, August 11th, not the 8th, the 11th, the first televised baseball game in color was on WCBS in New York City. It was the Boston Braves beating the Brooklyn Dodgers 8-1.
Man, color TV. To think it was only like 70 years ago we started getting that. But August 12th, 1950, the first international game by an NFL team was played. It was the New York Giants beat the CFL's Ottawa Rough Riders 20-6 at Ottawa's Lansdowne Stadium.
It was.
Ottawa's.
You know what would be great? If for preseason, NFL played CFL teams.
I mean, that'd be pretty dope.
It'd be pretty cool. And I think it would be good for, they're two different products and they have wider fields and all that kind of stuff. But I think it'd be pretty cool to do at least like one game where you do something like NFL team versus a CFL All-Stars, or kind of how the MLS does it.
Right.
The MLS All-Stars versus an overseas team. I think it'd be pretty cool to cross-market those.
But where do you put the goalpost? Do we put them in the end zone, behind the end zone?
I think you play it on NFL field with NFL rules, but it's also a way you can kind of integrate. You can see CFL guys get in front of NFL scouts, and it's also a way for CFL players or CFL teams to see NFL guys because they only get so many roster spots for American players. And you get a chance to see maybe they do different rules, like how the CFL allows you to run up the
have forward motion towards
have
the
forward
line.
motion. Maybe you see things like that come into play, and they let them do that kind of stuff.
That'd be
I think that'd
interesting.
be pretty cool, really intriguing, really tough logistically to pull off with all the rules, but I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Could definitely happen.
August 12th, 1994, members of the Major League Baseball Players Association go on strike, leading to the cancellation of the World Series for only the second time in MLB history. The first time was 1904. This was, of course, because of the labor dispute.
Oh, yeah, that was huge then, too. You never really seen that happen except one other time. So that was crazy. But August 16th, 1954, huge moment. Sports Illustrated magazine begins publishing.
I know you're big on this because you're a big Sports Illustrated guy.
I love Sports Illustrated.
I used to get SI a long time ago when as a subscription when I was a kid. It was really cool. I really liked how they did the SI for Kids
Oh, yeah, that was always awesome.
series that they do. I don't know if they still do it anymore, but it was a lot of fun. It was really cool to get those every month. They got little like paper trading cards that were in it. It's just really cool as a young sports fan. So congratulations on the continued success for Sports Illustrated. But
sure.
One last segment for the day. We're talking about our good old Give or Go. And Chris, I'm going to throw the first one to you. So Give or Go, our leader, Donald Trump was quoted to saying that Colin Kaepernick should get a job in the NFL, quote, if he's good enough.
All right, so I'm going to give on this, but it's going to be a mild give, okay? Because Kaepernick, if he was good enough, he would be playing on a team. We obviously had a huge debate earlier in the year that released, which you can definitely find on all of our different outlets, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podbean, PodCoin, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Google Play Music. But
I love the plug.
that's
great.
I gotta fit it in there every now and then. Which, if you missed any of what I just said, because I said it so fast, it's right at the bottom of the screen.
But for our audio listeners.
For our audio listeners, though. But at the end of the day, though, Kaepernick, if he truly was good enough, he still would be playing. So I just don't feel that this is a place for Donald Trump to be commenting on. I feel like he's been really way too involved when it comes to the sensationalism and drama that's happened in sports. So he needs to kind of maybe not worry about that. Maybe try to worry about running our country. But I do, to a certain extent, agree with him. If Kaepernick was still good enough and able to do everything that was asked of him, I think he would be playing in the NFL.
I mean, yeah, he should, but I mean, of course, we were talking about the big debate we had. I was on the other side of it. I do think there was blackballing by the NFL to keep Colin Kaepernick out because of his stance on the racial issues. And I'm with you, though. Mr. President, please just stay in your lane and run our country and try to unify us instead of divide us. But that's okay. We're not getting into politics.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother.
Yeah, we can't get into that one.
Yeah, that's a whole nother animal. So
anyway,
Arena Football playoffs. Albany Empire at 10-2 versus the Philadelphia Soul at 7-5 for the championship. Give or go.
Woo! Go Albany Empire wins by a lot.
Yeah, probably 30 or 40.
They win by a lot. I mean, basically their whole roster is on the all AFL team, which only consists of like 3 teams or some weird stuff like that. Yeah, Albany Empire by a lot. That's good. I'm gonna go on it. All right, next one, last one for you. New York Yankees GM Brian Cashman was mistaken for a thief and was stopped at gunpoint by police. Give her a go.
All right, so even though I am going to go on this, I do find this whole story funny. His white Jeep was stolen, was returned, but the police didn't clear it from the stolen vehicle registry. Ooh. So this is why he got pulled over and had 9 officers at gunpoint asking him to exit the vehicle, walk backwards, all that stuff.
Whoops.
And until, he was obviously able to explain the situation. So, I mean, that sucks, but...
That was just unfortunate timing.
Very unfortunate.
Yikes.
But to you, Craig, T-Wolves Gaming wins the 2019 NBA 2K League Championship last weekend. Give or go.
Obviously want to give. I'm going to represent for the 2K League anytime I can.
That's right.
T-Wolves Gaming, they were expansion team this year in 2019. They beat 76ers GC in the final decisive Game 5. Of course, in the 2K League playoffs, the finals is a 5-game series, and all the other playoff games are 3-game series. So it's not quite as in-depth as the NBA is as far as their series go.
Right.
But they kind of struggled partway, and they got really hot in the second half of the season, snuck their way into the playoffs, and really dominated. And Bear to Beast became the NBA 2K League Finals MVP. Monster year. Game 5, I think he had 23 points and 6 assists at the point guard position and provided plenty of highlights throughout the playoffs. And
definitely.
Looking forward to this next season when 2K20 drops. Of course, we have our esports team, which I am a part of. We're looking forward to getting ready and playing 2K20, and hopefully some of our guys, can make a shot at the NBA 2K League. I know I would love to play that. Having played 2K since 2K7, I think was the first game I played. 2K6, 2K7 was the first game I ever played for 2K. It'd be a lot of fun. They got a new expansion team coming next year. Charlotte, the Hornets are getting a new G League, 2K League. They're getting a new expansion team, so it'd be pretty cool. Hopefully, looking forward to making a run at the 2K League for some of our FinalScore esports teams.
Which, if that were to happen, we'll definitely be streaming it live on
Absolutely.
podcastcity.net through our Twitch account.
We're working on some cool things in the esports arena, which we haven't yet announced. But once we do, obviously you all will be the first to know, and hopefully we can put together a pretty successful esports team.
Definitely. We'll definitely see what happens. But alas, we are nearing the end of our episode. So we need to take a look at the week ahead. What do we got?
Week 2 of the NFL preseason is heading off this week. And, of course, we're going to see a little bit more of the starters. They're going to see hopefully more than – usually it's the first quarter. First game is a drive maybe, or they sit. Game 2 is where you start seeing a little bit more of the starters play, which will be great. Looking forward to it. And just means we're 1 week closer to the regular season.
Oh, I can't wait.
Can't wait.
That also means, though, that we're entering week 2 preseason. That also means Hard Knocks will be starting this week, which will be covering the Oakland Raiders, which have plenty of drama right now. So definitely make sure that you catch that. It's going to be really exciting. I love these Hard Knocks series.
Oh, I love it. Every year it's a lot of fun to watch. Last year with the Cleveland Browns was great. This year with the Oakland Raiders, and probably gonna be talking about their pending move to Las Vegas, and it's gonna be a great show this year. I'm really excited for it.
For sure, it's gonna be real good.
USA basketball team continues to shape their roster. They just had finished up a scrimmage earlier this week, actually on Friday, and they continue practicing in California this week. They have an exhibition game scheduled against Spain on the 16th of August. They're going to open the FIBA World Cup tournament on September 1st against the Czech Republic in Shanghai, China. So look forward to hopefully watching the exhibition game against Spain. should be pretty good. They made some cuts, some additions, so we'll see how that roster shapes up, because a lot of big stars have been saying no thank you to the USA Basketball.
Yeah, which has been kind of surprising, because usually that's like the feather in the cap that you want to get. You get an NBA title, try to go for MVPs, but you always try to throw in that US Basketball title. So kind of interesting that's worked out that year.
It's been a cycle, though, because remember, before the Redeem Team, we had the same issue in the NBA where stars didn't want to play on basketball, the USA Basketball, so then they had to start just reaching for people. And then, of course, you had the major disappointment, the Olympics right before the Redeem Team came into play, 2004. Atrocious showing by the U.S. in the world basketball stage. So I think this is usually how it goes. We're going to get to a point where we're going to struggle, not do well in the tournament, and stars are going to go, oh, okay, well, I think I'm going to join now.
Yeah.
It always does that.
Have Redeem Team Part 2,
Something like that.
But we also have the Little League World Series starting on the 15th of this month. They'll be running through the 25th. They'll be taking place in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Definitely get to see all the best Little League teams from around the world come together in this great tournament, and maybe see some future stars, if I can get my words out right.
Yeah, quick shout out to the Bay City, Michigan team that was representing the state of Michigan in the Great Lakes Regional against Illinois. They did fall 4-2, but of course, Bay City, it was only about a half hour from where I grew up. My grandparents went to high school in Bay City, so it was very, very cool to see them on that kind of a stage. So congratulations on a season. I know it probably fell short of the expectations, but always great to be able to shout out local Michigan whenever I can.
Absolutely. Definitely going to be crazy. But to round everything out, I know this is kind of going a little off, but WWE SummerSlam will be taking place tomorrow night, or as you listen to this or watch this.
Probably tonight. On Sunday night.
Yeah, Sunday night at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Canada. It's going to be a lot of great matches, including the return of Trish Stratus in singles action against Charlotte Flair, and then also Goldberg coming out to wrestle Dolph Ziggler. That's such a random match. But a lot of this is going to end up leading up to the big title matches between Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship, and Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman against Seth Rollins for the WWE Universal title. So definitely going to be an interesting show.
Yeah, it was kind of funny that I think they've been really trying to push Dolph Ziggler, and they do it every so often, and then he kind of falls away. Then they make a major push again. I really love him as a heel. He's a great heel for the company.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really surprised that they pulled Bill Goldberg out of retirement to
for
come
one
in,
more match.
For another one more match.
One more match.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, however many times they're going to do that. But I don't know. Are you looking for any surprises out of SummerSlam?
Nothing too crazy. You also have the women's matches with Natalya taking on Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's title in a submission match. Probably going to end with Becky Lynch winning that one. But I think really a lot of things are going to end up coming down to Lesnar versus Rollins and where that storyline is going to end up going. I feel like with the Kofi Kingston-Randy Orton match, it's just a feel-good train that keeps on going with Kofi Kingston, who is the first ever African-American WWE champion that they've ever had. And I think a lot of it's just to kind of help build up his credentials by letting him have another win against a true vet like Randy Orton. So don't expect really too much.
I think he drops it.
You think he's going to drop it to Randy?
I think he drops it to Randy, but part of the reason they're going to do it is they're going to build it up for a rematch because he hasn't lost a title defense yet.
No, he hasn't. Not a single one since Mania.
Unless they think they're gonna run like a really lengthy title reign, like a CM Punk kind of thing. I think they drop him. I think he drops it, and then he just wins it right back the next pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. But
definitely could happen.
I wouldn't be surprised if they keep him on as the longest reigning WWE champion because of what you mentioned. He's the first ever African American winner of the WWE Championship. But I think he drops it. And I think the Seth Rollins Brock Lesnar storyline is so played out.
It really is.
They've been doing it for 5 years now, off and on.
Off and on, yeah.
Okay, do something else, please. This is why AEW is going to get ever so close to the WWE. And actually, their first live show coming up, isn't it?
Well, they're going to be debuting on TNT this October.
Right?
Yeah.
That's October.
Yeah, so they've been doing a lot of their pay-per-views, which have been going through Bleacher Report Live. A lot of people have been complaining about the price, given that $60 for a pay-per-view when you can get WWE pay-per-views for $10 if you get the WWE Network. So,
but
that's been kind of a pain issue.
but floor seats at the event were like a third of the price of a WWE event.
That's true.
I mean, you're paying what? Numerous hundreds of dollars, almost thousands of dollars to sit right up on the floor for a WWE event.
$600 for Raw alone.
Yeah, $600 for Raw alone. I mean, if I remember correctly when I looked it up, AEW seats for that first ever event, they were less than $100 to sit on the floor.
Yeah, I think they're like 80 or 90. I
mean, right there, that's already going to be worth why they've sold out as quickly as they have been.
But we'll definitely see how it works out. But until then, we are sadly out of close. This is the end of our episode.
Yeah, another episode in the books.
Yeah, it's been real great, though. Definitely make sure, though, that you join us next week when we bring you episode 24. Well, I guess it won't be next week, will it? It'll be the week after.
We could still do it next week. We just got to
see what we can pull out.
Yeah, we got to just kind of do a little logistics changing here, but
yeah, we'll see what happens. But again, though, we thank you for joining us for episode 23 of Final Score. Definitely make sure you check us out on all of our social media outlets on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram at PCN Final Score. You can also shoot us an email now, pcnfinalscore@gmail.com, and also check us out on our Podcast City Network mothership site, podcastcity.net/Final Score. And also check out all of our latest sports stories too on our sports blog on podcastcity.net. And of course, check us out on all of our different outlets and listen to all of our latest episodes, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podbean, PodCoin, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Google Play Music. God, there's so much to say.
So much.
Ooh, a little winded. But
plenty of avenues to go and find us and share us with everybody.
Definitely. And definitely make sure that you go share us. Tell all your friends about us. We bring you the latest and greatest in sports where you can see us argue about things. It's so much fun.
And you can tell Chris how crazy it is that the Lions will go 3-13.
And I stand by it.
Get out of here.
Stand by it. But until then,
jeez.
I'm Chris. This is Craig. And you just watched Final Score. Have a great night.
Podcast City Network.